Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Westboro Board of Selectmen. It is Tuesday, February 9th, and this meeting of 2021, I should say, and this meeting is being held remotely. It is now 6:01 p.m. I will call the meeting to order and ask the Vice Chair, Alan Edinburgh, to bring up the agenda. As he's doing that, I will read Governor Baker's orders, which by now we all could probably read by heart. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A and Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Westboro Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Westboro's website at town.westboro.ma.us. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: through Westboro TV's online platforms, youtube.com/Westboro TV, and at westborotv.org, or on Charter Channel 192 or Verizon Channel 28. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westboro's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. I'm not sure I'll ever get tired of reading that. Okay. And so we have our agenda up. I'll run through it quickly. We'll have open forum, and then we will have an update on upcoming community events and activities. We'll have our town manager's report. Then we'll have a discussion vote of a request to send a municipal response to the state's clean energy and climate plan for 2030 by Peter Dunbeck, the chair of the Climate Action Plan Task Force. We'll have a presentation by CMRCP on the Westboro parking study. Then we'll have a discussion about the annual town meeting warrant. We've got several items under this. We've got first a wastewater treatment plant board article to discuss. A discussion vote on the town election warrant. We'll be joined by our town clerk, Wendy Mickle, for that. And then we'll talk as a board and vote on the annual town meeting date. Around 7:50, we will hear a presentation regarding the Westboro Village water concerns. We'll move then into a discussion vote regarding via WRTA, the voucher program. Then move to discussion vote of the Selectmen representative to the Master Plan Steering Committee. Around 8:20, we'll talk about scheduling the chicken poultry bylaw public hearing. We have approval of minutes to follow that, and then a request to appoint Derek Sari as the DPW's representative on the Economic Development Committee. And then finally, we'll have issues and correspondence of the Selectmen. And we will have an executive session to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease value of real estate at 103, 107 South Street, 0 Denny Street, 10 and 12 Mill Road, and 0 Ruggles Street. And that is our agenda for this evening. And with that, thank you, Alan, for the agenda. I want to welcome and thank Shatil Kapardi for joining us on our open forum. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Shelby, for this. Can I kind of present what I've come here for?
Absolutely. If you would just please state your address just so we have it for the record, and if everyone could remain on mute, that would be great.
So my address is 293 Turnpike Road, apartment number 609, Westboro. Can I start?
You may, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I would really like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to come to this meeting and talk. So Sheetal Koparde has been a resident of Arrive on and off for the last 7 years. I've come to this open forum to raise awareness and request a crosswalk from Arrive to Target and other shops located on the other side of Route 9. Every day, many people cross over dangerously at that junction. Most of the residents are mostly immigrants who who have probably either have only one car or probably not even one when they come in. More so, many women who are housewives do not drive here. The town of Westboro has many great facilities the other side of Route 9, like Jimbori, Target, Stop and Shop, the gymnastic place, and I believe there was a martial arts place too some time back. Many residents here would like to take advantage of the same and, probably walk down there, which is actually at a walking distance, but it is not possible because of the cross is very dangerous. I do understand that the town of Westboro, the Route 9 belongs to the state, but I'm sure there was something done at Lyman Street. So I'm sure the town of Westboro would have some idea to get this crosswalk done. Another important point that I would like to raise is many people here, by conversation with people, they say that they love to shop at Target than Walmart. That's everyone's favorite. But unfortunately, because of the cross, they kind of go to Walmart. Here, the Westboro town, my observation has been they're losing taxes because Walmart comes in Northborough, not in Westboro. So that's something which, the viewers should consider, taxes. So I had put up a petition online and there was a comment which sums up what I've come here for. I'm going to quote that comment. I certainly see advantages and opportunities if done right. Of course, we should do this for the safety and well-being of our neighbors. We can add to that all sorts of ideas of how a crosswalk in combination with a commuter rail, Target, Stop and Shop, and then the other surrounding businesses would boost up our town. I hope this is given all the attention it deserves. So as I said, this comment literally sums up everything for what I've come here. So hence, I would request the town to really look into this.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming before the board to share your thoughts, and we will note that. And, it's not on an agenda for discussion at this time, so thank you very much. And you're welcome to watch us through many of those other means online or through your cable channel.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I will leave that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Oh, she's a Patriots fan. She's brokenhearted. Okay, upcoming community events and activities. I'll just go in the order in which I'm seeing folks on the screen tonight. Alan.
Okay, a couple of quick things. It was posted today on town social media, and I believe the town website as well. But Mass DOT on February 18th is holding a public hearing on the Fisher Street pedestrian bridge. This is the bridge at the end of Fisher Street. It used to be an auto bridge. It's been closed for over 30 years. The MBTA is looking to convert it to a pedestrian bridge that would allow taller commuter trains for higher commuter passengers on the commuter rail, higher capacity, as well as widen the right-of-way to allow the third rail for express train service on the Boston-Framingham-Worcester line. Westboro Community Land Trust is having a Nature of Westboro photography contest. WestboroLandTrust.com is their website to participate. And the Lions Club has announced that you can start sponsoring and getting your ducks for their annual Rubber Duck Derby on April 10th, which you will attend remotely, virtually, but the duck race will be real. That's it.
Real rubber ducks. Excellent. All right. Love it. Creative stuff out there. Selectman Hashmi.
Nothing from me.
Okay. Thank you. Selectman Johnson.
I can't beat the duck, so I have nothing further.
Okay. A couple items. Alan, you and I usually overlap, but this time we're not, so that's a good thing. So I just want to remind folks that the Master Plan Public Forum number 2 is taking place on Thursday, February 18th at 6:30 p.m. You can go to the town's website for more information on how to log in. Of course, that's virtual. I want to remind folks of the town elections that are taking place on Tuesday, March 2nd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can also vote by mail-in ballot. You just have to contact the town clerk and they'll assist you with that. Tonight, competing with our schedule, but I want to remind folks of this, that they can go back and watch it. The Accelerate project that our town manager reminded us of, I believe it was in our last meeting in her report. This is the 8-bridge reconstruction project along I-90 east and westbound across the period of June to August 2021. Yes, that's correct, in 3 months. They are hosting a session tonight, and you can find out more at mass.gov/accelerate bridges, and so that information is out there and very easy to find. And I think that's it for now. So with that, oh wait, Alan, you have one more, please?
Wait, one more thing. It did go out as part of the Code Red notification today, but Westboro residents age 75 and older are eligible to get COVID-19 vaccines at clinics being run in Hopkinton this Friday, the 12th, Monday, the 15th, and Tuesday, the 16th. And I believe Christie's and the fire chief have put information up on the COVID-19 section of the town website with a link to register.
So just to follow up on that, so you do need to register prior to going. You cannot just show up. So that's really important. You need to bring with you documentation as listed on the website. So it's on the news section of the website, and it's also on the Facebook page. So if you are 75 plus, you need to bring a photo ID that includes your name and date of birth, your birth certificate, and your insurance card. And if you do not have those, there is a self-attestation form that you can fill out. And if you have any concerns or questions about registering, you can contact the Senior Center at 508-366-3000.
Great. Thank you, Alan, for bringing that up. And Christy, we'll transition to you. You have the mic for your report, please.
Yep, so the town was awarded the Local Rapid Recovery Planning Grant. And so this is technical assistance that we had applied for. If the timing of the rapid recovery planning under the program has shifted to allow the planning to extend beyond June 30th of 2021. So we expect the process to be about a 5-month period starting in late February. So this is something that was applied for through the Economic Development Committee. And Kim Foster actually applied for it with John Steinberg. The Conservation Department update, the Conservation Department held a special public meeting on Monday, January 25th to review stormwater compliance and siltation issues at the Fales Elementary School construction site. This project has continued to discharge turbid water into the small pond and buffer zone down gradient from the project, so particularly during large storm events. So if you are interested in that, you can view their meeting from the 25th. The commission and consultant team made up of members from various stakeholder groups agreed on a number of improvements to the stormwater controls currently as on site, as well as increased monitoring and maintenance. Conservation and engineering staff will continue to monitor the site and work with the consultant team. The Westboro Stewardship Advisory Group, which we heard about a few meetings ago, met on Tuesday, June 26th. The group identified a number of challenges and areas for opportunity in establishing a more robust stewardship program. So members are from the SVT, Sudbury Valley Trustees, the Westboro Community Land Trust, Conservation, and the Active Transportation and Safety Committee. Communication with the public on the programs and outdoor resources was identified. So they're going to continue to work on that. So if you're interested in those, you can view that meeting as well. The Conservation Department is looking to develop and host more volunteer stewardship opportunities this coming year. And you can kick that off in collaboration with, they'll kick that off in collaboration with WCLT, hosting a series of garlic mustard polls, including the development of promotional educational materials to encourage Westboro residents to get out on the land and help manage the invasive plant. The fire department has been awarded grants through the Commonwealth State 911 of just under $98,000. So the department has petitioned for training funds, emergency medical dispatch funds to perform quality assurance and quality improvements, and it offsets labor costs. The department has also affiliated with Quinsigamon Community College Paramedic Science Program. So over the next 3 months, they'll have students riding with them for 40 hours per week. And then as of February 10th, all firefighters, dispatchers, and police officers that requested the COVID vaccine will have been provided both doses of Moderna. So with a second the first of the second dose clinics was held today. Youth and Family Services has started activities for Reach Out Westboro. The project was recently funded by a grant through the Metro West Health Foundation. And they're collaborating with Westboro Connects and mental health trainers to design and plan mental health community training. Youth and Family Services continues to have a steady stream of requests for resources and referral services. As a reminder, those several resources can be found on the COVID-19 section of the town's website. The demand for this has grown significantly over the past 2 years, with a particular peak during the pandemic. All client records have been fully transitioned to an electronic record, officially discontinuing the use of paper charts. So that is my report.
Great, thank you very much, Christy. Okay, I see Pete Dunbeck is on. We are now at our 4th agenda item. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you.
All right. And so Pete is here to talk to us about a possible response from the town with respect to the state's clean energy and climate plan for 2030, yet another acronym, CECP. And obviously this is where Pete is and his team with the Climate Action Plan Task Force have been working closely on as they prepare that plan for the community. So Pete, why don't you take it away? I believe you have a presentation to share with us.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Let me see if, are you seeing it now?
Yes, we are. If you just want to go into presentation mode, that'd be great. And yep, there you go.
There we go. Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm Pete Dunbeck. I'm the chair of the Climate Action Plan Task Force, as well as the chair of Sustainable Westboro. I think most of you know me. So we're here to review a proposed letter for response to the Clean Energy and Climate Plan. And there are so many different climate-related things going on in the state. I thought I'd better start with just a background on how this fits in among all of the other activities. A version of this response letter was reviewed with the Climate Action Plan Task Force, but not the version that's now in front of you. There were feedback from Westboro and from other communities in regard to the response letter, and it got edited, and there wasn't time to kind of go back and have an official vote. So I'm not speaking on behalf of them. I'm an individual citizen, I guess, advocate for this, but I can provide you context on that. Let me advance to the next slide. So the background on this, the kind of the foundation of all of this climate work in Massachusetts is the Global Warming Solutions Act, which has seen various legislative updates, and it set the goals for greenhouse gas emissions and also created certain executive authority for the governor to achieve those goals. One of the things he did last year, basically in the state of the state 1 year ago, January of last year, was to change the 2050 goal to a net zero in 2050. That then produced a series of work. It was already ongoing, but to create a decarbonization roadmap. And this is a collection of scientists and business leaders, state policy experts, and that were pulled together and did the economic and technical analysis for all of the different ways that one could go and achieve net zero by 2050. And the overarching objective was to how to achieve it while maintaining health, equity, and of course, a thriving economy. So it's providing that underpinning technical analysis. The output of that was a new target for 2030. So Secretary Theoharides, Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary, set the greenhouse gas goal for the state for 2030. And accompanying that is a plan for achieving that 2030 goal. This clean energy and climate plan, the topic we're going to be discussing tonight, is built on the technical analysis that's in the roadmap. The clean energy and climate plan is open for public input, which is part of what we're discussing and hopefully providing. The work underneath that, the Governor Baker's actions and the Decarbonization Roadmap are not, these are kind of foundational documents. It's been a dynamic environment where all three of those documents, the target and the two main documents, the roadmap, all came out at the very end of last year. And our clean energy, our climate action plan is built on this. So one of kind of our operating principles is to try to leverage and align fully with the state programs and take advantage of those. We're not suited and capable of kind of doing new analysis on economics and new technology strategies and so forth. So we're fully relying on the state for all of that. And to a great extent, we're relying on the state for all of the program activities and resources that we hope to bring to Westboro. So that's the context and why this is important for us. And if we kind of zoom in that a little bit and create this little bubble around that activity, even outside of that, there's more issues and activities going on. The legislature at the end of last year passed a climate bill, the Climate Roadmap bill, which came out like 3 days later on January 4th, and then it got vetoed by Governor Baker. They immediately went back into legislative session and they submitted it again, and he has now returned it to the legislature. So there is this churn of potential change, and it's more than potential change. There's almost certainly going to be parts of that bill that survive the negotiations with the governor, more rapid movement toward renewable energy, potentially more dramatic changes in regard to building code, investments in equity and mass transit that were not in the clean energy and climate plan. So this is all going to cause change within the plans we're looking at. And that is not resolved, but one would expect it to be resolved over the next couple of months. Further out, other things going outside is things like the BBRS, who are the folks that decide on building codes within the framework of the law, DPU, and so forth, are all looking at their charters and activities and adjusting them. And they have their own secretaries and their own kind of stakeholder groups that they're feeling pressure from. So the Clean Energy and Climate Plan is attempting to influence them. In many ways, they have some authority to change them, but not complete authority. So that hasn't all played out. On the other side, there's technology assumptions that are underpinning all of this work. Over time, that the cost and performance of technology that are assumed in all of these plans, the reality is going to play out. It'll either be good news or bad news. And if it's bad news, then other actions need to be taken, and the climate plans are going to have to be adjusted. There's things going on at the regional level. A big collaboration on transportation fuel. In the climate plan is a proposal for a similar collaboration on electricity work. And of course, there's federal changes, which everybody's aware of. And that, I think, creates opportunity for Massachusetts that we don't have to go it alone as much as we had been doing in the past 4 years. So with that context, we'll take a look at the Clean Energy and Climate Plan. It is a big document. There's a lot of stuff in it. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'll send the slides it has page references for things that I thought were interesting. I can send the version of the plan I went through that has highlights. Again, it's things that are interesting to me, and I think they'd be important for Westboro. But if we zoom in on a few of these, just to highlight them for the purpose of the meeting here, there are two big areas that really the state has been doing poorly on that are getting addressed. The first is transportation emissions have not made progress over the last 20 to 30 years. In fact, they've probably gotten a little worse. And in the building heating space, it got better when people converted from oil to natural gas, a great deal of conversion over the last 20 years. But that isn't making the progress it needs to, and that conversion is mostly done. So the changes that need to happen are primarily in the electrification of transportation, in the electrification of heating systems. Things like 1 million electric vehicles, a policy that says there'll be no fossil fuel vehicles, no diesel and gasoline light duty vehicle cars and trucks sold after 2035, basically matching California's program. Installing 1 million heat pumps plus in the building in residents, got better households and hundreds of millions of square feet of commercial space. A new code is proposed in the Clean Energy and Climate Plan that's for high performance passive house level building code. And again, the legislature has passed a bill that goes beyond that level into a net zero standard, and that's a point of debate kind of outside the Clean Energy and Climate Plan. Another key thing which is important is that Mass Save is going to end all of its, in the next 3 years, it's going to end all of its fossil fuel heating system incentives. So right now you get rebates and incentives for going to high efficiency natural gas furnaces. There'll be no rebates and incentives for going to any fossil fuel heating system. It'll all be focused on heat pumps and electric systems.
Pete,
So,
sorry to interrupt. I don't know if you're looking at a separate set of slides, but your slides aren't moving. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, poop.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. Sorry to.
Thank you for interrupting. Mine are clicking right through.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Let me.
That's okay. I mean, we've been following. I just didn't want you to get too much further without that.
I'm sure it's hard to follow because let's see what's going on here. What are you seeing now? Can you hear me?
No, yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, we're only seeing everyone on the call, not your slides. If you want to share those again.
Okay.
There you go.
Are you seeing this?
Yes. Yep. There we go.
And I'm in slideshow mode. Are you seeing that now?
Yes, we are. Thanks, Pete.
So again, this is a very busy slide. I guess it doesn't make sense to go back through that. I will send you the slide deck. So there's all these different changes going on, and electricity as a result of this conversion of transportation and heating systems to electricity is going to double by 2050, and it's going to double with massive investments in renewable energy. So what is the letter about? So the letter is a response to this. It is coming from a municipal perspective, and it has these 7 sections to it. The first is about establishing a municipal version of the Implementation Advisory Committee. So the Implementation Advisory Committee's been in place for a long time. It's a group of environmental advocates and so forth, but it really doesn't have the voice of what's going on in municipalities and what do towns and cities need from the state in order to implement these programs. So that's the essence of the first point. The second point is towns like us are taking on new work as we try to figure out how to help our communities make this transition. And these are transitions that are going to happen at the local level. It's millions of electric vehicles, it's millions of households. Those are distributed all throughout the state in different municipalities, and the state has made very clear in their document that they're depending on local government action. So this second request is, okay, so put some funding into that local government action for things like a sustainability coordinator and other support that could be provided to help towns help the state. The third point is the state is pushing this high performance stretch energy code. There's a phase-in process between 2022 and 2028 and so the request here is to put some incentives in place to help green communities move to that high performance stretch energy code faster. It's basically the mechanism that was used to get towns to become green communities, was a promise of funding to help the municipality, and I think the same mechanism should be used again. The fourth point is that municipalities are building new schools, new libraries, new infrastructure. When the state is providing funds to help municipalities do that, those funds should be aligned to the state goals and encourage net zero and high performance building construction techniques. And fifth bullet's about one of the key ways to reduce transportation emissions is getting people out of their cars and into public transportation. In some community, in every community, it's different. In higher urban settings, it's one set of public transit, but there didn't seem to be a lot of attention paid to public transit in the Clean Energy and Climate Plan. Whoops, and I hit my touchpad. Are you seeing the slide again?
Yep,
Yes, we are.
yes.
Okay. The sixth paragraph is, this came from some other communities who are probably 6 months or a year ahead of us, who are trying to implement some of the building electrification. And they've identified a need that I'm sure we're going to find also, and that's that there's a lot of technical skills, engineering skills in regard to evaluation of buildings and on what the best path forward is, how much money to put into efficiency and when to convert to electric heat pumps and what type of heat pump is best. There's kind of central units and mini splits, and there's ground source and so forth. So there's a set of technical resources that we're asking for in number 6. It's specifically around building electrification. And the last point is, as we do this work, it would be good to have much richer, more timely data on the emissions within the community. We have a tool that came from MAPC. It's been useful for us at the gross level to get the climate action plan generated, but it doesn't have a timely enough. A lot of the data is too old. And if you're going to try to track the success of a program year over year, we need a new set of data. And I believe, and others believe, that it's all data that the state has. And with a little work by the state, every community could have that data for themselves and be able to make better management decisions on how to transition their community. So those are the 7 asks we're putting into this response letter. It has gone out to about 30 communities. We have 4 that have signed on, and a longer list here. I didn't count them. It looks like 16 that we heard back from that are in review, and we believe the majority of those will be affirmative, but as you see, Westboro is on the list, so we're not making assumptions. What are your questions and thoughts on this?
Thank you very much, Pete. Really thorough as always, and I think it would be great for you to share the, I know I'll take a markup copy of what you've already read and highlight it in these slides, so if you can share that, that would be great. So I'll just open it up. Syed, I see you are off mute, so do you have a question?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, I want to thank the Sustainable Westboro group for doing.
Syed, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes.
So first, I want to thank Sustainable Westboro for doing this. This is, absolutely critical. As many of us know, we had, again, it was one of the warmest years last year. Climate change is here. California was on fire in the midst of a COVID epidemic. A glacier just broke and has caused flooding in India as we speak. So this is real. I'm all for this letter. And I recognize it's a form letter. My question, and I've reached out to Sustainable Westboro before about this, is, it's well and good to talk about goals for the town and everything, but the problem is there are frequently people with limited means and with limited time to access resources. So for instance, if you are that single mother living in a single home with poor insulation, I mean, you don't have time to run around, to access these. How do we make it possible that she can, take care of insulation in her house, that she's not spending a fortune on heating? That's kind of what I'm trying to look for. And how do we get those resources to people with, for instance, limited means, limited English, and limited money?
It's a central question that we all need to struggle with. The state has, in the CECP, has some discussions around justice and equity, and to ensure that kind of no household is left behind in the transition. One of the things that the legislature put with kind of maybe more teeth and more money in that roadmap bill that I mentioned earlier on the slides you didn't get to see, was more money in regard to justice and more definitive statements in regard to a bias toward support of the poor in this transition. So when a rebate program comes out, make sure that the participation levels and that there are income qualified measures that are taken to support those that basically have no disposable income to make an investment in a new vehicle or a new heating system. As you know, Syed and Kim Foster is the lead for the town. We have engaged with Mass Save on a thing called the Municipal Partnership, which is looking at some of those underserved demographics that you mentioned and how municipalities can help in outreach to create greater efficiency in homes. It's a good program. It's going to be a great learning experience for us as we, hands-on learn what these state programs can and can't do and where their deficiencies are. And part of this CEC sign-on letter is this municipal implementation advisory committee. So I think we need that type of a permanent structure where we can provide that voice back into the state or where their programs have structural barriers. So I agree with the goal. I think the legislature has addressed it in their new roadmap bill. I think that deserves attention. And I think we're sensitive to it locally.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Pete. Because again, you know, the savings that we can do. I mean, this will be a sometimes I worry that, you know, we talk about climate change, but we forget the people that are most affected by it are the most vulnerable. And any change that we can do will not only transform their lives, but long term is of benefit to all residents. So this is what I guess drives my passion for this. So thank you.
Sorry, is that all you had? Yep. Okay. Alan, yes, please.
Yes. So thank you, Pete. This is fabulous. And I looked through the letter. Can't say I understand all the technical components of it, but I get the gist. I'm certainly supportive of it. You mentioned that this letter, we're looking to have it signed by 30 communities. You listed 20 on the slide, I believe. Has this gone out to a broader range of communities? Are there other communities looking to do similar letters as far as this process goes?
There is a letter, so I'm not, in regard to a CECP response, I don't know of any other kind of collective effort. I believe this is it.
Okay.
We, the few of us that were organizing this, put our Rolodex together and blasted out emails. So in the emails, we asked them to send it to their friends and other communities. So if I could provide, I'd be happy to provide you the list of towns we've reached out to. If you have others you would reach out to, the intent was to go as wide as we could go.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, Ian?
Pete, you had mentioned at the beginning that in working with the other communities, there are some changes that hasn't gone through your committee here. Can you just highlight what that was? And do you think those are anything that would be of concern to the Westboro group?
No, I think well, there were changes that the task force asked for, and I took back to the group, and those got adopted. It was specific around the stretch code and flexibility for the community in implementing the stretch code. There was, and those changes were requested by the Westboro team, and I reviewed it with them before I sent it in. So I think that has been addressed. There was changes, the whole public transit paragraph was added since the Climate Action Plan Task Force looked at it. So I don't think that would be objectionable. We have a goal in our Climate Action Plan to improve public transit. So I think that would be, I don't think there's anything there that would meet local resistance. And there was some other wording changes that were implemented. Actually, one thing was, as I talked to kind of my peer group in the multi-town collaborative, it wasn't clear to us exactly what the state was saying in regard to what was the opt-in process for the new high-performance stretch energy code. So there's a whole paragraph added, which was basically make it clear for us how you do this and make it easy for us as a community. That's what that paragraph was. And the Westboro Task Force hasn't seen that paragraph before.
Okay, thank you. And so just so I understand, so you're looking for us to vote on this tonight, correct? Is that your?
I was asking for a vote on this tonight, yes.
Okay. Perfect. And from what you said, you don't think there's any, I just want to make sure that we don't vote on something that then the group doesn't support, but it sounds like in your view that the group would be supportive.
And I tried to disclaim I'm not representing them. I haven't reviewed it all with them. I'm trying to cover that issue that they haven't even seen the document. So I don't want to speak to say that they would endorse it. but I know what's in the climate action plan. I know what the discussion was like. There's nothing here that's kind of an outlier that would be against the grain of what we've been discussing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Christy? Can't hear you, Christy. I think looks like you're off mute, but maybe your view is on.
Christy, I noticed a little pop-up that said Christy Williams has left the meeting. I looked down and you're still there. Were you on the phone also, or?
No, it's the audio settings on her computer.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, would you like the motion, Shelby?
Well, I'd like to just give Christy a second.
Okay.
I did talk to Christy, so let me put something on the table that it may even be what she's, if like I got an email today with one wording change and stuff. If we could take a vote where there's some flexibility that it's, empowering Christy to go and finalize the wording within kind of these boundaries, so that if, let's say, 4 or 5 of the communities that are going through the review process like us come back and there's little bits of tweaks, Christy or Shelby or somebody could decide whether those tweaks are germane and need to come back for another vote. I think a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Pete.
Go ahead, Christy.
It's just, Christy, before you chime in, Pete, what is the timeline around sort of the public comment period?
One of the things that I was going to mention was the original public comment period was February 22nd, and we were working to that deadline, which is why there was some urgency in getting on this meeting. When the legislature and the governor started negotiating this new climate bill, they canceled all of the CECP webinars they had announced, and they moved that public hearing out to March 22nd. So the answer is March 22nd. And it almost seems like there could be some changes coming in the CECP that reflect the new legislation. So it's kind of hard to predict.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Christy.
So Pete, sorry I didn't bring this up when we talked before, but what my question is about the request to allow the CEO of the town, so in our case, the Board of Selectmen, to adopt the high performance stretch energy code as opposed to it going to town meeting, which is where it was adopted initially. So can you just speak to that? And then also, it looks like maybe by 2028, all towns would have to accept it, so we wouldn't have a choice. Is that the case?
That is the case as proposed by the state. The legislature has a more aggressive date and a more aggressive scope of plan.
But your understanding is that at some point towns won't have the option to adopt it?
Yeah, green communities, everybody, even non-green communities it would become the new base code.
Pete, can you just repeat that? I just want to be clear. So even if you didn't vote, even if you voted at town meeting to stop the stretch code, the state would mandate it. Am I correct in this? Am I understanding this correctly?
In 2028, the code that's referred to here as the high performance stretch energy code would become the base code, and every town would have to conform to it in 2028.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And in the way the climate plan is written, communities, I think it means green communities or non-green communities could adopt the high performance stretch energy code starting next year, 2022, yes.
But right now, the way it's written is that it would go through the regular legislative process.
It's ambiguous as to what it says. And so we were debating, in fact, one of the task force members is a lawyer, and he's not representing this issue in front of the town, but his read of it was he wasn't clear that we had to go even because of our adoption of the stretch code and so forth. So his speculation was we didn't need to. These other communities were also not certain as to what it was. So part of the ask in that paragraph is, okay, state, 2 parts. Make it clear to us exactly what we need to do and make it simple for us. If we could get it through the executive officer of the municipality instead of through a legislative vote, it's a whole lot easier. So that's what that paragraph was, and that's a paragraph that the task force has not reviewed.
And Pete, when does the task force meet again?
March 1st.
So, I think my personal comfort level, again, not understanding necessarily all the technicalities that go into this, is that I'm generally supportive of the letter. I think that given the fluctuations in all of this, in the sense that it sounds like there's constantly new information coming out, and I think you said both the Climate Action Plan and Sustainable Westboro have not formally given their support of this. I think I mean, it's a little bit of the chicken or the egg, I guess. I'm supportive of this, but I'd like to hear from them before the Board of Selectmen. I feel more comfortable if both of those groups were to weigh in on their support of submitting this and bring what would be sounds like the final version of this back to the Board of Selectmen rather than voting on it tonight. But that's my thought. Because while I think we could certainly hand it off to the chair or to our town manager, I think that this is a big deal. And I feel like the whole board should at least see the final, Alan.
I'm comfortable with that way forward as well. My question is, if this were, to Mr. Dunbeck, if this were on the March 9th meeting and we voted at that meeting, would that give you sufficient time to finish the process and submit within the public comment window?
I think March 9th is sufficient. There is a dynamic of other towns looking for other towns. So like Northborough is looking for Westboro to take a position, and that would encourage Northborough to sign and so forth. So there is this momentum that comes with getting an affirmative vote. If you could take an affirmative vote, tentative, with a review on March 9th, that would be appreciated. That we can tell the other towns that the board has approved this, but due to possibility for any changes have to come back to the board or something like that, that would be a definitive statement we could take to other towns and say, okay, Westboro is in. Tentative, asterisk, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not gonna change so dramatically that I think if we brought it back to you, if you voted yes on this version, you'd vote no on the next version.
right.
But I respect the idea that you would want to vote on what you're putting the town's name on.
Right. And I'd also, I think it's important of the work that the Climate Action Plan and Sustainable Westboro do, and that they should have a say in this as well. And we should understand that position.
I would recommend particularly the Climate Action Plan Task Force as being more domain expert in this topic.
Yep, thank you. Any other discussion?
No, I'm supportive of what we said there. I did separately got pinged on text by another member of the task force saying fully supportive, which is that they were on this call to support it. But I do think the process we're talking about makes sense. I would be supportive of, basically conditionally approving, and, if there's anything that's a major change, I mean, a word here or there, I don't know that has to come back to the board. We should see the final one, but if things don't change, I'm not sure that we have to revote, but whatever
Sure.
motion Alan wants to make, I'm going to defer to him.
Okay.
So I get to craft a motion on the fly. Okay.
Exactly.
So thank you, Ian. Where's the bus? It's coming. I move to authorize the chair to work with the Climate Action Plan Task Force to finalize and execute a letter regarding the joint comments from municipalities regarding the interim clean energy and climate plan for 2030, provided that should any substantive changes occur in the letter or the direction of this effort, that the matter be brought back to the Board of Selectmen for a final vote at our meeting on March 9th, 2021.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Seeing none, roll call vote. Selectman Hashmi?
Yes.
Selectman Johnson?
Johnson, yes.
Selectman Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, yes.
And Selectman Marshall, yes.
Well, thank you very much. I will add that I will make a formal vote at the next task force meeting and report those results to Shelby and to Shelby, to all of you.
Great. That sounds great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the work and that is going into this. It's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. I will send the highlighted version of the CECP as well as my slide deck that refers to certain sections. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Pete.
Good night.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll move on to our next agenda item. We have a guest with us from CMRCP, some familiar faces. And Ms. Christian, how are you? Good to see you again.
Nice seeing you all. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, so I believe we have yourself, Mr. Raymond, and Mr. Barron here, all from CMRCP.
Correct.
Great, and if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves and kind of your role as it relates to this project, and then you can take it away, and Alan will assist you if you have any questions on sharing the screen, because that's beyond my pay grade.
Sure. I am Sujata Krishnan. I'm Deputy Director, Transportation from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. I guess my role with the project has been, this started out as a land use grant application, but with more transportation end of things. So more on providing project guidance and making sure we get the deliverables. Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob Raymond. I'm a transportation planner here at the CMRPC. I've done a lot of the work working with the inventory of parking spaces and the collection of the utilization counts, as well as some of the GIS work that went along with that.
All right. Hi, I'm Ron Barron. I'm a principal planner with the Regional Collaboration and Community Planning Department at CMRPC. My role here is going to be principally helping frame the final recommendations and putting the deliverables together.
So folks, I don't know why this happens sometimes and not, but if you're not presenting, if you could just be on mute, and we'll, and if you need to speak as one of the presenters, just raise your hand so the presenter knows, and you guys can come on and off. Otherwise, the double speak takes away from the great presentation.
Okay. I'm just waiting for the first slide. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thank you all for having us today. So like I said, we were at the Board of Selectmen meeting almost a year ago now with this project. So the way we will do the presentation today is I'll just provide some kind of a, bring everybody up to speed and kind of bring you talk about what we did in the last year or 2 years now at this point. And then Rob will take you through all the data collection and the past and what we've done during COVID. And then Ron will finally finish with some ideas of how, what the data is showing and how you could use available spaces and some ideas for land use. So just, again, I want to kind of jog your memory. This project started almost 2 years ago now. So, and COVID kind of put a damper on things. So the initial scope of the project was to conduct a parking study and to understand and improve parking access in downtown Westboro. I know there has always been this, I guess, a feeling that there was not enough parking in downtown Westboro. So this was more a ground truth exercise to see what's happening on the ground. Again, this project was funded through a state grant. Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs had a grant funding opportunity, and CMRPC, along with Westboro town staff, were able to apply and obtain funding. And also there was a matching portion, which was matched by the District Local Technical Assistance Program as well. So there were 3 main goals, if you may, for this project. The first one was to collect the inventory, where is all the parking, both on street and the lots, municipal lots and some private lots. And then the second piece was, once we collected the inventory, then we did parking utilization. So, if you had 1,000 spaces, how many people were, parked there at certain times of the day? So we did a utilization, and there was a weekday and a weekend portion of it, because parking changes, there's a difference between a weekday and a weekend parking situation. And finally, we were going to identify some best practices that the town can use based on the data that we've collected. So again, this project started June of 2019. It was supposed to end June of 2020. COVID hit, so we got a year-long extension because things were not coming back to normal as we had hoped for. So this grant ends June 2021. We do hope to wrap things up by March, April, because we do understand the town is working on the master plan. So we want to make sure we give all this information so that can be used in conjunction with the master planning efforts as well. So that's my background information. With that, I turn over to Rob to talk about the inventory and other data that was collected.
Perfect. So this slide here shows the study area highlighted here with this yellow line. The study area runs from Westboro High School all the way to Barker Way, and then it goes north to Water Street and then south to Cross Street. It really intersects a lot of the business and residential areas. There's some single-family housing. There's some multifamily housing and apartment buildings. It's a very diverse area and kind of the center of Westboro's economic activity. So before we went out and collected the inventory, the utilization counts just a few months ago, we updated the inventory data. So that includes all of the parking spaces that we were able to find in town. So in the study area, there's 1,022 public parking spaces. Of those are 158 spaces in municipal lots. 241 are marked parking spaces, and 623 are unmarked parking spaces. These are spaces generally in residential areas like Church Street or Charles Street, say, where parking is allowed along the street, but they're not specific spaces marked. And those spaces are generally used by the residents of those streets to park in front of their house or to visit a friend or something like that. And then for private parking, which are large parking lots similar to the Bay State Commons area, there's almost 3,000 parking spaces there. So of all of the on-street parking, about 85% have no time restriction to them. so you could park all day, and that's a lot of those are in the residential areas. And then for the marked spaces, 45% have no time limit to them. About a little over half of them have a time restriction, with most of them having a 1 hour time restriction. So when we're talking about parking and the utilization of it, there's kind of a sweet spot, if you will, for how well utilized the area is, and that's highlighted right here. It's the 80 to 90%. So that's an efficient use of space. So that means that there's probably 1 or 2 empty parking spaces per block at any given time. Anything less than that, so less utilized than that, that's really, there's excess capacity, and there's probably opportunities to use that real estate in a different way, whether through wider sidewalks, bike lanes, things like that. Anything over that is really full capacity, and that means that there's generally not enough parking in that area. So to collect the utilization analysis, as Sujatha mentioned, we conducted 2 utilization counts. The first was back in 2019 on a Thursday. That was our weekday count. And then just a few months ago in November of 2020, we conducted the weekend count. The weekend count that we did in 2020 is kind of what I would call maybe a new normal weekend. So I was out walking around that day and that weekend in downtown, and there were a lot of people out and about doing things. Many people out walking for exercise, and there were a lot of people visiting restaurants and things like that. So I think it was a fair assessment of the parking for what we've been going through lately. Let's see here. So for the utilization analysis, so this data was presented at the previously to the Board of Selectmen, I think around maybe December of 2020. So I'm sorry, not 2020, 2019. So there's a little bit of a review, but for the weekday, the peak time was from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So that's when most of the cars were parked. So some areas were highly utilized for extended periods of time, mainly around maybe like Dairy Queen and down by the high school, where there was a funeral that was actually going on that sent us past our capacity limit. Oops. For the parking lots, 10:30 was the peak time, and many of the lots were in that sweet spot of efficiently utilized space. Those lots were the Town Hall lot and the Forbes building lot. So then for the weekend count, which is the count conducted most recently, the peak times were from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that was mainly around South Street and East Main Street. There was kind of a bit of a coffee rush, I guess you could say, in the morning. A lot of people were parking down kind of by the Red Barn Coffee and some of the breakfast places. And that kind of continued throughout the day, but it never got to a capacity issue. So then for the parking lots, kind of a similar situation. 11 to 1 were the peak times. The Town Hall lot and South Street lot had the highest utilization. Similarly for maybe like breakfast use and things like that. So to display this data in a way that's easy to use, we've created a dashboard. So I'll just pull that up quickly, and sorry about that. Can everyone see the dashboard?
Not just yet. There it goes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this is a dashboard that was presented previously. This is actually a new link, so any of the old links we'll have to update, but we didn't want to update the old link just in case that there was something that needed to be worked on. But the first tab you'll see here is a demonstration video that will walk the user through how to use the dashboard. Let's see here. So this second tab here called Welcome is really just a nice drone photo of the area. The Introduction tab has a lot of the information on the study area, kind of the development and the scope, some important dates that we've gone through, and then a little bit of an explanation of the utilization capacity rankings that we have. So this tab here is the Inventory tab. Might take a quick second to load here. So another thing that I forgot to mention about the inventory, it was kind of just an interesting thing that we noticed is that in downtown Westboro, in the study area, there is only one marked handicap space for on-street parking, and there are only 12 handicap spaces in the municipal lots in the study area. So that was just kind of an interesting thing that we noticed while we were out there. So this is the inventory. So as you zoom in on the map here, you can see that, oops, a little bit too much there. The municipal parking lots are highlighted in orange, and the on-street parking are noted in green, orange, and red. Red are areas where parking is not allowed. Green are areas where parking is allowed and there's no posted time restriction. And orange are areas where parking is allowed, but there is a posted time restriction. So you'll also see under some of these parking lines dots. So these dots represent marked parking spaces using a similar layout. So these darkest green dots here have no time restriction posted to them. These lightest green dots have a 1 hour time restriction, and these kind of middle green dots have a 2 hour time restriction. So one of the things we tried to do when we upgraded the dashboard this time for the inventory is improve the pop-up boxes, if you will. So now when you click on a parking area, you'll see the time restrictions, the number of spaces listed, and we've made sure to go out and take a photo of every parking area in town that we could find. So that if people are wondering what's going on, they could click that and try and get a little bit of a perspective. We also have inventoried all of the signs that regulate parking in town. And similarly, if you click them, you'll have a photo of them to try to help explain the inventory a little bit. So moving on to the utilization. So this is the fall weekday utilization. So you'll see here all of the parking lines that we had shown before, and then they are symbolized using the color scheme previously mentioned, and you just click through here to change the hours of the day. So you can see here at 11:30, there was a funeral activity, so that's why these areas are very highly utilized. And then around the Dairy Queen area, kind of throughout the day and into later in the day, there were some high capacity parking because people were trying to get ice creams. Let's see here. And you'll see that there are some parts of streets that may reach full capacity throughout the day, while other parts of that street, maybe a block or so down, have not reached capacity. So it might show that maybe there's a nice parking spot that allows unlimited time parking that people prefer to park in versus a time restricted one. All right, and then we have a utilization chart here that shows basically the percentage utilization in the area with a selector, so that, for example, on-street parking, you'll be able to select East Main Street. Yeah, you'll be able to select East Main Street here, and it will show the percent utilization on East Main Street for each hour of the day. So for the weekend, we have a very similar dashboard layout showing there it is, the parking time. So you'll be able to see kind of earlier in the day that parking was mainly utilized here in the South Street area, kind of near the Rotary and the South Street Diner. And then as the day progressed, It kind of spread into the lots a little bit, and then eventually kind of spread down to West Main Street here, but nothing really reached an efficient use of parking during the day. There was a lot of excess capacity throughout the entire day. And then similarly for the weekend, we have the utilization chart here. Sorry about the slow load time here. So you can see here that throughout the day for on-street parking and off-street parking, there was really a lot of excess capacity throughout the day. And then even if you select East Main Street, similar story. Then this final tab here is additional data. So here's where we're going to be loading the previous presentation we made. And then for this project, we had a drone pilot take some photos of the rotary for us. And those were taken Monday, May 6th from 12 to 1 p.m. And if you click there, it brings you to a Dropbox folder where you'll be able to take a look at them and download them as needed. And I think Ron, if you want to mute my mic quick.
Okay, thanks, Rob. So the question we have then is, we've got the data, what are we going to do with it? We originally, when this was framed out, we're more thinking about this project in terms of having a facilitated community conversation around the findings and some public meetings, and then generate some more harder deliverables, some actual like zoning changes or recommendations, etc. Obviously, with the time constraints and the fact that you are now pretty well along in updating your own master plan, we're now thinking that a more effective approach is for us to take a look at this data, summarize our own findings and our own takeaways from it, and then package some recommendations, some broader recommendations that we can then give to the master plan committee as they're developing their recommendations, and to the town in general. So, and we're thinking about things such as simple things like improving wayfinding for municipal lots. That was something that we discussed. There was a lot of underutilization, particularly on the weekends of the municipal lots. I know I personally drove around, and I'm not as familiar with as some people are with the town, but I definitely struggled to find where the municipal lots were. And that can definitely take pressure off of street parking where it's in the highest demand if people know where the municipal lots are, and it can help manage it a little bit better. But we can also talk about give you some examples of parklets and restaurant pop-ups. I know there's a lot of communities that are desperate for, a lot of restaurants that are desperate for extra space. There may be possibilities for some of that in areas around town where you have excess parking that may be temporarily converted into outdoor seating for restaurants or other types of business. But you can also change it, convert it into temporary public space, make it widen it for public use. And then there's also obviously the possibilities of considering where sidewalks, bicycle lanes, et cetera, could be utilized where street parking is excessive. Obviously, since you're going, as I said, since you're going through the master planning process, that seems like it's a more appropriate conversation to feed through that process. So what we're intending to do is take like I said, our findings and recommendations, make them part of the dashboard that Rob just walked you through, along with any links, documentations, examples that we collect, and then have that packaged for the town boards and for the master plan committee to go through their public process when they're coming up with their goals or recommendations. So is there any questions on either the data or the ideas, the final deliverables we just talked about?
Thanks, Ron. I will open it up to the board if you don't mind, maybe just not sharing for a moment. And if we have to go back to it, we'll ask you to pull that up.
Shelby?
Yes, please. Yep, go ahead.
So first of all, thank you to CMRPC for doing the study and for all your hard work and for coming back. And because I'm kind of simple-minded, I just want to be. So the message, the bottom line is, we're actually there is excess capacity. Would that be a correct summary? One sentence. There is excess capacity available in downtown Westboro. Would that be an effective takeaway?
Absolutely. There are, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, there were only a couple of, like Rob said, the funeral home, again,
right.
And the Dairy Queen, those were the only two areas we saw even close to the optimal, the sweet spot that Rob was talking about. Most of the time we did not see utilization. So you're right, there is excess capacity from what we've seen. And the drone picture that Rob shared in the beginning, just as a nice cover, kind of says it all. If you looked at that drone picture, it says the same exact story as the data we collected. You can see ample parking available.
Perfect, Sujatha. And so the point I wanted, in case there are any residents that are listening, the point I want to make is that, it's funny that we're having this parking discussion following a vote of the board that we want to be more environmentally sensitive. And one of the things is that the recent research has actually shown that parking can actually make quality of life worse, increases congestion, pollutes the air, encourages sprawl, and degrades design. So I'm fully supportive of the concept that you had mentioned, for instance, about converting parking spots into public spaces. For instance, for outdoor seating, I went to a presentation when they were still holding presentations at the MMA, at Mass Municipal Association, about having parklets, like you talked about, like having, pop-up stores in various parking spots. So I am, I think this data certainly gives us an opportunity to be creative in how we use these spaces and potentially long-term convert these into quote-unquote green spaces, because, the asphalt, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, traps heat. Am I correct in this? The black asphalt actually traps heat, creates a heating effect. So, the less we have of it, the better it is. Thank you. And again, my thanks for your work on this.
Thank you, Syed. Alan?
Oh, sorry. One other thing. Sorry, no, that's it. Thank you.
No, go ahead, Syed. Yep.
Nope. Sujatha is going to be presenting to, I believe, Northborough about their facilities at Amazon, and I'm hoping she'll keep what's going on in Westboro, and so that we can work collaboratively and keep us. I think they had some concerns about Amazon, but that's a separate topic, and I'll follow up with her offline about that.
Okay, Alan.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for continuing on with the project, even with all of the delays and the challenges we've had. I spent some time on the dashboard this afternoon, and I think one of the things I sense is that we have enough parking. We have a surplus of parking. It may not be where people want to park, given where they're going. It may also be in places where people are unaware that they're able to park, right? So having no parking signs where you can't park is different than having, the absence of a no parking sign. People might not think, oh, I can park here. They might just think, oh, the sign's way back there, the sign's way ahead, I can't see it. And so I think there are some things we can do around in the short term, knowing that the master planning process is in place. The EDC had a presentation about downtown revitalization with the town of Hudson at our meeting last week. And one of the things they have is, an online map, very similar to what's on the dashboard, that's color-coded on where you can park and for how long. They also found that by putting time limits on spaces, even on side streets, was a way of letting people know, hey, you can park here for 2 hours. But yes, you can park here. It's not just a throughway it's no parking on the other side. This side you can park here. And so I think there might be some creative ways to let people know that there are more spaces than they realize closer to where they're going to go once they park and walk. And if that frees up opportunities to widen sidewalks to make them more walkable and viable for outdoor seating, pop-up stores, things of that nature, being better able to support cultural events like arts festivals that extend beyond the green on the Bay State Common into the downtown area. From an economic development standpoint, I think that would all be great. So thank you very much. Great data. We give a lot to work with.
Okay. I'm not going to repeat any of the comments already made. So I agree with all of them. So I want to thank you for the work. I did have one question. What would you have expected to see, if that's a fair question, with respect to ADA parking, given the size of the geography you were looking at in our mix?
For the handicap spaces?
Yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily had any expectations. I'm not a ADA expert per se, so I'm not too sure. I just thought it was interesting, the number of spaces. Just kind of when we were walking around, I noticed it because we had a field in the collection app that we were using for handicap spaces, and the lack of times I hit it kind of triggered me to look back and see how many spaces there were. I might have the one handicap on-street space that we did find, I think, is down near the Central House area, kind of down on South Street. I thought maybe there would have been one, and not to say that there should be one there or anything like that, maybe in front of Town Hall or the municipal buildings. There definitely are parking spaces there in their lots for it, but it was just an interesting find. But
yeah, no, that stood out to me.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, I love the idea of better wayfinding because of the connectivity, but that's for teams to work on going forward. And I wholly support that we're kind of transitioning and connecting this data set to the work of the master plan. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. If I may just add, Shelby, we did actually, as part of this, it was timely because I know the town was working on getting the complete streets prioritization plan. So we did, Jim was able to connect us and have a meeting between the consultant who was working on the complete streets prioritization plan and us. So we were able to share data with each other. So I think that was a nice way to make sure, because you don't want these studies in silos, they all work together. So I think this would be good for the master plan as well. So Jim invited us to the planning board meeting next week, so we'll be discussing with them as well. So
well, raise the roof. Nice. That's great. Awesome. Okay. Well, I seeing no other comments or questions from the board. Well, thank you so much for this project, and the data gives us lots of interesting stuff to work on from a number of different angles. So thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
thank you.
Okay. So we will transition to the annual town meeting portion of our agenda, if you will. Christy, do you want to introduce this next one?
Yep, so this is an article on the annual town meeting warrant that was put forward by the wastewater treatment plant board. And so we have Jack Goodall and Michael Stanton on the call to explain the article.
Great, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So I think it would be probably helpful for the board as well as the public if you could give an overview of the article and sort of its purpose. I know we have some information in our packet, but the public doesn't always see that. Right. So,
Jack, I'll defer to you.
Okay, Mike. Jack Goodall, the engineer administrator for the board. Essentially, there's about 10 or 12 items that we'd like to do, improvements at the plant. Actually, it's repairs, maintenance, things of that nature. Typically, the board pays monthly a certain amount to the contract operations firm Veolia to do miscellaneous maintenance things. But these are some of the things that the value is too high for them, you know, based upon their budget. One of the items, the primary focus or reason why we are doing this is we have 13 rotors in the aeration system. The rotors are big paddles that turn kind of like a paddle boat on the river, you know, in the old days. It churns. Instead of moving the boat, you move the water that it goes against. But anyway, there's 13 rotors, and they cause air to get into the wastewater, which allows the treatment to be facilitated. We were able to repair one of them, the one that broke. One actually broke. We took all the other 12 out and looked at them, and they are in, basically they're about ready to give out, all of them. And so we're proposing to do it over a series of about 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years, to replace the rotors. We can't take them all out once, so we'll take them out one at a time, replace them, and put them back in. We've estimated that cost to be about $2.6 million. One of the other items is to replace cloth filter material in the filters. Near the end of the wastewater stream, the wastewater, after it's been mostly treated, goes through cloth filters where it removes the real fine items from the stream. That has to be done every so often, and that's $187,000. Install a secondary polymer makeup system for active flow. That's the phosphorus treatment building. We add polymer to it, again, to facilitate the pickup of the phosphorus from the wastewater. We have one. We really should have a second one. So we want to put in a secondary makeup system for the polymer. That's about $125,000. We'd want to replace the exhaust fan in the headworks. That's $31,000. We want to replace the grit screws at the beginning of the plant. The wastewater goes through a grit chamber where the grit settles out. That's been estimated to be $100,000. The plow truck is getting old. It's a Ford from the 80s, and that's estimated to be $75,000. Again, that's not, we don't use it on the road. That's strictly an in-plant vehicle. The grit truck is getting old as well, or it is old, and that has to be replaced. We've estimated that to be $100,000. And that's what the grit truck takes, the grit and screenings from the plant and disposes it at the Shrewsbury landfill. Wheeler Braid is a landfill there. we want to replace the rehab, the US filter. That's the older odor scrubber, the older one. It's currently not used. It's the backup, but it needs repairs. We have 2 scrubbers that work all the time, and if those go, if one of them goes down because of repairs that are necessary, the scrubber should go online to provide backup, but again, it's out of service right now. So we want to replace that. That would be about $87,000. We want to rehab the sludge holding tanks, basically recoat the tanks with a concrete type of coating. That's $75,000. We want to replace the grit classifiers. That's $75,000, and we want to put containment around the transformers, the electrical transformers, and we've estimated that to be $162,000. And so we want to do that over about 4-year period. So we're asking for $4 million for the article.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodall. Thank you. Mike, you're off mute. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of supplement what Jack has had to say. Jack used the word want quite often. I think the word that should be used is need. The plant is it's a very finely oiled machine. We're very fortunate to have a contract operator in Veolia, North America, that is second to none, and they do a lot of preventive maintenance on their own on a daily basis. These are items that have come and seen their life expectancy. So just to add on to what Jack said, I mean, Jack is a very conservative guy. He, we want to do this. We'd like to do this. These are things that need to be done to keep the operation running as smoothly as it runs now, and to keep the town in a good place. So that's what I would like to add to that.
Great. Thank you very much, Mike. And I appreciate walking through. I know, Jack, you and Mike probably know these numbers like the back of your hand, but I do think first of all, most of us probably don't know what happens at a wastewater treatment plant. So just that explanation I know is helpful for me, and I'm hoping for the public as well. And I know Selectman Johnson particularly likes this conversation. He always gets into this, right, Ian?
I do. I've toured it multiple times. It's a pretty fascinating thing, and we do not want this to not operate or not operate effectively, because that's when we all get calls.
Yeah. So in all seriousness, does the board have any questions? Yes, Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, the only question I had, and maybe it's for Christy. So it's 4-year capital improvement. It looks like there's 2 options here. One is to do it over 4 years. I think the second one was basically to kind of have the article be for the total amount, 4 million or whatever, once, and then I guess it would be drawn down, which is somewhat different than we typically do. But I guess Christy or anybody, I know the language in here was, especially with the big ticket items of the rotors, if they go down, and we don't have it planned to borrow for following year, we wouldn't have the money. So I guess what is the recommendation? What are we looking for here? Is it for the 4 million or?
Yeah, I think the intent is to borrow the full amount, or to get authorization to borrow the full amount.
Okay.
And sorry, can I ask a question, Shelby?
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm sorry. So this would be so this is not money. I'm sorry. I didn't quite understand this, and maybe someone could clear it. I thought that this is money that would be taken from this. Could be like, we can't use the sewer enterprise funds to pay for this.
Christy?
Sorry. Yeah. So the debt would be paid by the sewer enterprise fund.
Okay, so it will not go on the quote unquote towns, in a sense, towns.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
It goes on the ratepayers.
Yeah, ratepayers. Okay, thank you.
And it's shared with Shrewsbury and Hopkinton as well, but we have to borrow the full amount and then it gets, in essence, reimbursed.
But it still shows on the town's borrow.
Correct.
But again, to be clear, that's not coming out, quote unquote, it's not showing up. It's on the property taxes that the payers, are on. It'll be, you'll see it in, quote unquote, in your water bill, right? Yes.
Yes. Right, Christy? Yes. Yeah.
It's in the water and sewer bill.
Sewer.
And just one other, I'm not the technical person, so I'm just wondering, I recognize I'm fully supportive of this article and this is critical work that is being done. I'm just trying to get a sense of, we're putting our, of any further upgrades that need to happen or the, is the plant otherwise functioning effectively or does it need further updates? Are you getting the sense of what I'm trying to ask? I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of, is it, will it last another 5 or 10 years, or does it need further refurbishment or updates?
I'll jump in, Jack, if you don't mind. We recently, and Jack, you can tell me the years that I've been on so long. It's like yesterday. We did a $54 million upgrade to the plant. The plant had pretty much met its life expectancy, and the state and federal government had mandated phosphorus removal from the effluent that is dumped into the Assabet River from the treatment of the wastewater. So we had to do that, and at the same time, we did a total plant upgrade. For the most part, total plant upgrade. These are items that were not included in that upgrade. Goes back 8-10 years, Jack. The upgrade.
Yeah, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was on mute.
I'm sorry.
We got done about 2013 is when we were complete.
Okay, so 8 years.
Right.
So that project was completed. So right now, for the most part, we have a state-of-the-art facility. These are items that were in very good working condition at the time, and were not included in the project, knowing that somewhere down the line we were going to have to do these replacements, repairs, whatever you want to call them. So to answer the question that was asked, I would say we are in very, very good condition moving forward once this work is done. I would say probably 15 years, Jack, we're looking at.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but you want to assume every 20 years or so you upgrade the plant. So yeah, about 10 or 15 years, we probably end up having to do it again.
Right.
Okay, this would be inclusive of, again, we just heard a presentation from Sustainable Westboro. I just want to make sure that this includes any regulatory upgrades that we may potentially see or yes.
Yeah, at the current time, if I could, Mike, we just got our draft permit, our discharge permit, and that's the regulatory issue that I think you're talking about. And for the next 5 years, I want to be careful what I say. There's no apparent items in the draft that would require substantial capital improvements at the plant.
Okay.
If I answered that right. There's a couple of issues like aluminum, but that's more operations, not capital. Still.
And to answer the question that was asked, we're at the mercy of the regulatory agencies, the state, the federal government, and right now we don't we don't have anything pending that would increase capital costs.
If I could also, the split between the towns is about, in round numbers, Westboro pays about 35%, Shrewsbury pays about 60%, and Hopkinton pays about 5% of this. Westboro does front it. They borrow the money and everything, and then annually or twice a year gets reimbursed by the two towns.
Thank you. Alan, you had a hand raised?
Pardon, Shelley, that was me?
Yep.
Yeah, so, you know, to Ian's question, that the way the article is drafted, it's providing the full borrow for the 4-year plan up front. I understand that gives the flexibility that, you know, if you replace 4 rotors and rotor number 5 starts to fail, you'd be able to execute the repair and not have to wait for another decision cycle and another borrow cycle to make that happen. So is it your expectation that you will, as needed, or if there's an advantage to do so, to change the order and bring in the timing of some of these maintenance items?
Mike, if I could, I believe that would be one way of looking at it. An example is if the grit truck does break down catastrophically, we'd have to move that up in the order that we're projecting. Issues like that, it does have to be on the road, so it is an essential part of the plant. So, you know, we're trying to plan, but it doesn't always go that way.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that you have that flexibility, given the critical nature of sewer treatment, and being able to respond and make those decisions. Thank you.
Ian, did you have all your questions answered? Felt like we went off to another part of the conversation there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alan kind of hit on it, but I assume the only final question is the borrow. While the borrow is authorized for the up to $4 million, I did see in the note that if other things come on, that there's the opportunity potentially to take out a budget and lower the borrow. So I'm assuming that we wouldn't borrow $4 million and let it sit in the bank. We'll borrow it as necessary to accomplish the projects that are in that plan.
Right. If I could, typically you do a short-term borrow for what you think you're going to need in the near future. And then at the end of all the short-term borrows, then you go out and do the long-term. I talked to Leah about it a little bit ago. So that's probably what will happen, type of thing.
Perfect.
That's how we do all building projects.
Yeah.
And
But if I could, this year we got the draft permit. In our budget, we have treating for winter phosphorus, and so we're projecting to have a surplus because we don't have the final permit yet, so we don't have to treat for winter phosphorus. In the draft, it allows us to have a 1-year stay at the current treatment level, which buys us some more time. So we are projecting, if that holds true, to have a little surplus this year. And the intent would be to take that surplus and put it against these capital improvements, if that makes sense. So that's the goal. We'll see how it pans out.
Perfect. That's all I had, Shelby.
Okay. Mike, you wanted to?
No, Jack answered exactly what we were looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I just had a question regarding the plow truck. So I understand it's used at the wastewater treatment plant only. Seems like maybe it could be used elsewhere in town. Can you help me to understand sort of that logic? I mean, I'm sure it's used for other things other than just plowing, but could you help me to understand why that wouldn't be a shared resource across other needs in the town?
Well, number one, because we're a quasi-town, quasi-regional district, whatever, the other towns do chip in per se. So you really should get their approval for that. But more specifically, typically the plow truck is, in this case here, it was the pickup that we used on the road to do errands and stuff like that, to go get stuff. When it came of age, if you want to call it that, we got a new pickup back in 16, and that pickup, the 250, became a plow truck. We did not get a super truck. We got a F-150, which isn't as good for plowing. You can plow with it, but not as good. With the intent that once the plow truck does go, we'd end up getting basically a used vehicle. I would anticipate it might be the other way. We might ask the DPWs if they have an older plow truck that they want to get rid of. They also have that auction for municipal projects online too. So.
Okay, that's what I thought the reason was, but wanted to make sure I understood. Yes, Mike.
I did notice in doing my homework prior to the meeting, which I'm not always known to do, if you go back to Westboro High, I did notice that the town is buying some new vehicles for the DPW, or proposing to buy new vehicles for the DPW, to Jack's point. And there was a 1-ton pickup, I believe, they're looking to replace. I mean, if it's in working order, that, if that's something that can be done between the town of Westboro, the treatment plant, and the other towns, that may be something we could look at. I mean, because it to Jack's point, we did buy a new pickup truck 5 years ago to be on the road, to do things that needed to be done, and this would just be a yard truck. Plow truck might not be the exact proper term, sure, but there are other, like you said, Shelby, there are other tasks that truck performs during the course of the operation. So that might be a prudent thing to look at.
Well, we'll trust that you can work with our town manager and DPW director and to have those conversations. Again, I don't know how the accounting works, so we'll leave that to Leah as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Jack or Mike? This has been really helpful, guys. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. Appreciate it. And
happy to be here, and we appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
On that.
Yeah, thank you for being thorough and for this is important work. It might not be something we talk about all the time, but that's a good reason, right? Because it's working so well. So thank you. Okay. With that, I think we'll move into our next agenda item, and that is regarding the annual town election. And I see Wendy is on.
Hi.
Christy, I'm sorry. Christy, sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, so typically this would be on the town meeting warrant, but since we were talking about moving town meeting, Wendy's on a separate town election warrant for you to approve this evening. So as long as you think that you're still moving in the direction of pushing town meeting to April or May, then you would want to do this in order to post for both events.
Yeah, so Wendy, go ahead.
Nope, I was just going to say that, the same thing. Normally it's with the town meeting warrant. So this is just separate, and just looking for you guys to sign it, come into the office, when we're there. We just need 3 signatures.
So I will move to approve and sign the annual town election warrant as presented.
Edinburgh seconds.
Any discussion by the board? Okay, roll call vote. Selectman Johnson?
Johnson, yes?
Selectman Edinburgh? I got a thumbs up.
Edinburgh, yes.
Thank you. Selectman Hashmi?
Abstain.
So I just as an FYI, I did specifically ask that question because I know that this comes up when we approve warrants or election warrants as to whether or not someone who's on the warrant should abstain, and town council has advised that you do not need to abstain. So.
Oh, then I vote yes. Thank you, Christy. And if Sheila is recording it, can we document that thing from town council in the minutes, please?
Yes. Yep. We will do that, Syed. And what is your vote, please?
It's yes. Thank you.
And Selectman Marshall, yes. All right, great. So when, if everyone could swing in before the end of the week, Wendy, right?
Yep.
Sign in your office.
Wendy, sorry, does that need to be signed in your office? I'm sorry, or is it left with Sheila in the selectman's office? I'm sorry, I missed that.
It'll be in my office.
In your office. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Great. Okay. Great, thank you. Wendy, I presume you're going to stay on at least for the discussion about the town meeting date. If you don't mind muting, though, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. So as the board is aware, we have previously talked about pushing the town meeting back later in the spring for obvious reasons, being the pandemic and wanting to ideally see as many people vaccinated as possible to generate greatest possible comfort and turnout at attending town meeting, even though we have held several already safely, but that's sort of the basis for this discussion. So the board has, Christy also checked with various department heads that have articles on the warrant. Christy, do you want to just speak to that? And just to make sure that the public understands how delays would impact their articles?
The departments were all fine with delaying town meeting. Obviously, if we were to go beyond June 30th, which we actually can't because we need to have a budget in place, then it might impact some of the cost estimates. But at this time, everyone felt comfortable moving it into later in the spring.
So I did see that the superintendent spoke to the sprinkler system and having some concern with that, being that it would be 30 days past the bid date. Is that correct still, or is that just?
They would just they'll just adjust to the later date. So she had followed up with an email just saying that even though the bid is out, that they would try to negotiate a longer window for the bid to be viable.
Okay, that's what I assumed, but I didn't want to assume. Thanks. Okay. Okay, so open it up to the board for discussion or a motion on town meeting date. Alan, you're off.
Yes, thank you. So, at our last meeting, we talked about May or June, knowing that the first weekend in June is currently graduation weekend. Probably not optimal there. My fear is if we did it middle of June and something happened, we don't have much time at that point, and our need to have everything finalized before June 30th. So I would suggest, we start on Saturday, May 15th or Saturday, May 22nd as the date. If you wanted a motion, I would probably make it for May 22nd. She's checking her calendar.
Sorry, I was on mute. What day is Memorial Day? Does anyone know?
Memorial Day is the 31st, so the weekend of the 29th.
Sometimes it's earlier, so, and I'm sorry, I don't have the right calendar up here. Okay, and the other one that is often problematic is, I know it's on a Sunday, but it's Mother's Day. And that's the 9th usually, I think, or some second week. Is the 16th or the 9th? Anyone have that?
Mother's Day is Sunday, May 9th.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I just want to call those dates out. Okay, well, do you want to make a motion, Alan, or?
Sure. I move, pursuant to the authority granted under Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 9, and the town's general bylaws, to hold the annual town meeting on May 22nd, 2021 at 9:00 a.m. at Westboro High School, and to post notice of the same.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay.
I just want to, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if that's the day, I mean, it's going to be tough. Things come up. I think that's, we get into college graduations at that time. I know I have a family graduation that weekend. Who knows if it's going to happen or not, though, because it could be virtual. It's just one of the things that we may have, but.
Would the 15th be better?
15th would be better.
Okay.
So that, for the purpose of the discussion, we have a motion, so we can always amend that. But my concern too is the 23rd is now all of a sudden we're right up against the following weekend being Memorial Day. Now we're into June. I would feel more comfortable with the 16th as well. The 15th. Just gives a little more time. I'd love to hear also from our town manager as to thoughts around that date, and Wendy as well, if you have anything. Okay. No, Chrissy, you're good. Syed, did you want to chime in?
No, I think that's fine. I just would have just in case anyone's listening, I'm a member of the Board of Health. I would just like to, if it's possible, just to inform the Board of Health about this. I believe by May 15th, I think based on our discussions, we'll be into the first part of vaccinating the general public. We would have gone to the most vulnerable, so I think that would work. But I would just recommend our meeting is the Board of Health's meeting is next week, so I would just ask that this be run through the Board of Health.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would, given that we're still in a pandemic, that we would set the date and look for their support of that date. Okay.
So I will be happy to amend the motion to hold an annual town meeting on May 15th, 2021 at 9 a.m. at Westboro High School.
And I will second that one as the amended motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, Ian, I didn't catch you there before when you were making the motion. Okay. Roll call.
Hello. Hi, this is John Arnold calling. Sorry, I know you're used to seeing my name, but I'm driving in my car.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
That's all right. I've been having the phone drop out on me a couple times. I just wanted to let you know that either of the dates that have been put forward are fine with me. And just to explain to people who maybe are new, I think just to explain, one of the reasons we're thinking of starting at 9 o'clock is to try to maximize the chances we get through the whole warrant in one day. But I just want to let you know I'm fine with either day.
John, I apologize for not recognizing you. I saw you dropping on and off, and
yeah, it's all right.
Sorry about that.
I just didn't want people to vote wondering if I was available. I checked my calendar. I'm available any of those days.
Well, you're sort of critical to it, so thank you for making that known. Thank you. Okay, being that all the folks, it seems, at least on this call, can make it, roll call vote. Selectman Johnson.
Johnson, yes.
Selectman Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, yes.
Selectman Hashmi.
Yes.
And Selectman Marshall, yes. 4004 being present. Okay, great. Okay, great. John and Wendy, I think we're all set as it relates to annual town meeting items. We'll be in design. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Great. Okay. All right. Running a little behind, but not too bad. lots of topics tonight that are pretty meaty. Great. So our next agenda item is a presentation regarding the Westboro Village water concerns. And I did see a caller hop on before, at least one. So if you could tell us who's there representing the Westboro Village.
Hi, my name is Venkat Patta. I'm one of the trustees here.
Oh, hi, Venkat. Howard. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Yeah, absolutely. We met at the last open meeting forum. So yeah. Welcome. Is there anyone else joining you for this portion?
Yeah, I have my fellow trustees here, Praveen, Gopi, and Vijay.
Okay, so you're all on this. Oh, okay, you're on this room. Okay. Yeah. Oh no.
In the meeting.
In the meeting. Okay, yeah. You're in the virtual meeting room. Okay, I just want to make sure everyone was recognized. Okay. Okay. And
my name is Gopi.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, please go ahead. I was just saying my name.
Okay. No. Yes, I do want you to say your name. So sorry. I will be quiet. If you could introduce yourselves, please.
Yeah, my name is Gopi Nakalapuri. I'm one of the trustee in Westboro Village HOA Association.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
And is there one other person?
Yeah, I'm Vijay, another board of member for HOA, Westboro Village HOA.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vijay. Thank you. And we have our DPW Director, Chris Pant, on the call or the meeting as well. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. Okay. As the board is aware, I just spoke to this, that at our last meeting, Venkat spoke to us at the open forum about this matter. The board has received several emails and updates regarding this situation. The purpose here is to allow the individuals who have introduced themselves as part of Westboro Village to share information, speak on this issue. I want to be clear that our DPW director and team, the department, a variety of individuals have been very involved in this. So this is specifically a presentation. There is no action for the board to take here because it's really being addressed where it needs to be addressed. But given the concerns and really out of courtesy, we wanted to offer this opportunity to hear beyond the 3 minutes that we heard, where we previously heard from you. So the board has information in its packet, and I guess I would just ask, I think just for kind of the presentation, we'll have Westboro Village present and we'll listen, and then if our DPW director wants to add some perspective to that, he's here to help us and answer any questions. But again, this is really for us to kind of sit and listen. So I'm going to turn it over. Christy, before I do that, is there anything, Christy, you want to add to that? No? Okay. All right. Okay. So turning it over to the gentleman at Westboro Village. And if you want to share a screen again, okay.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. We are really grateful that the DPW has been assisting us, but we have few concerns. The thing is that DPW did the water testing. It should have been good when the water testing was done before and after, because the test results that we got, the samples were taken after the water line has been entirely flushed. They did the hydraulic soft flushing and then took the samples. So that's the one main concern, because the results, all the test results came clean. If the test was done before also, that could have helped us, how it might have impacted all these years. Also, as the letter says, this is not the first time we are reporting the issue. This is going on for 4 to 5 years, several times. But it's more frequent from the last 6 months. So every time we call DPW sends a crew to come and flush one of the hydrant, and never took initiative to find the root cause of the issue. Otherwise, it could have been solved a long time ago. Because the brown water and greasy filters, they are facts. But I wish there was more initiative from Board of Health or DPW to find the root cause of it. So next time when this happens, we request that a test to be done when the issue happens, also after the flushing is done. So that's one thing. And the second thing is DPW is never told us, or the management company or the HOA here, that, hey, you guys need to maintain the water lines here, not to, to sort out this issue. We never got that information, so we were completely in dark. So I wish they communicated better in the last few years. And another thing is DPW is proposing hire a private vendor, get the water lines flushed periodically, which is okay, but also asking HOA to pay for the water that it requires for the flushing. But DPW does flush the water in the dead-end zones in the community where the units are on the public roads. I do not think those residents are paying for the water. So we think that it's unfair asking us to pay for the water that requires for the flushing. That's one point. Another point is we had a meeting with the developer, Toll Brothers, yesterday. They presented us the as-built designs. According to the as-built designs, there are 3 entry points from the main line into the community. 2 of them are on Gleason. The other one is on the access point, on the access road, where Bradish Lane and the Townsend Boulevard meet. So the original design had a perfect loop for the water flow, but unfortunately, the loop on the access road, it got shut down, and no one was aware of it. So that has created this dead-end situation. That's when I think the sediment started accumulating. All these problems arised. I wish we knew that. So I don't know when it happened. Josh from DPW said the reason that may have been turned off was because of the water treatment plant is so close. Maybe the chlorine percentage may be too high. That may be the reason that has been turned off. But we request DPW to find a solution for this. If the valve is being closed there, they should have opened somewhere else to complete the loop. So that way water could continue to flush. So we request DPW to come up with a solution for that. Also, on the short term, we're okay, we'll hire a private vendor. We request that will be treated similar to the residents on the public roads and not to be charged for the water that it requires for the flushing. So those are the points we wanted to bring out. So I wish you have been more vigilant, either Board of Health or DPW. When we reported the issues, we were unaware of these, the extent of the problem. We were just calling in DPW office saying, oh, we're getting brown water. One of them comes out and flushes, and that's it. That's where it ends. We didn't understand the issue of it. But once we had a meeting with Aquasana, a nation leading water filtration company, their engineers were so surprised. The filters were so greasy, beyond imagination. They said this is the first time they have seen such greasy filters. Each filter was like less than, one was like 2 weeks old. The other one was 5 weeks old. They're supposed to last 6 months. So we honestly don't know in the last 5-6 years, what kind of health problems that may have caused. So we really request that this issue to be taken seriously and work on, completing the loop, to bring the loop back again, to continue the water flow, to avoid such issues in the future. Yeah. So that's all we wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you, Venkat. Christy? Okay, you came off mute. I just didn't know.
I can present the document if you want to see the developer has shared with us. These are the water connections they shared with us. There are 2 entries here on Gleason. These 2, this is the as-built plan. And there is one on the access road. This has been shut down. That's the reason the loop ended. It became a dead-end situation. And the filters, this is from my home and several of my neighbors. The Aquasana company is a national brand. They have special discount for Westboro Village. So many customers from our community. And each filter costs like $50, and they are recommending to change it every 2 weeks now.
Okay. Christy, sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't want to interrupt the presentation. I guess I just wanted to say that, the DPW remains available and interested and willing to have these discussions. As you probably know, if you've interacted with the DPW over the past 5 or 6 years, I think you said, we've had a change in leadership at the DPW, and I hope and I expect that, and I know that they have been working with you. So, I think that all of these items are things that we would continue to discuss. So that's all.
Thank you, Christy. Ian, yes?
Yeah, just a question. Thanks for presenting this. I think we were, in our packet, had a letter from the DPW to the community, and there was the I think the offer in there for the DPW to do the hard flush. I just didn't know, is that something that we're moving forward with? It sounds like that may be helpful again in the short term as things are continue to be looked at, but is that happening, or is it still waiting for approval? I guess just looking for some.
We can move ahead with it, but the problem is the letter that we received, it looks like it is prepared by the town council. There are no lawyers involved on our end. I don't know why we are being presented. The letter has so much information in addition to the hard flush. It is prepared by the lawyers. That was the concern. We wanted to read it carefully, but within a day or two, we'll get back on it. But absolutely, there are no lawyers, nothing on our end. So we were so concerned looking at all that legal language. It should have been just a courtesy flush.
Ian, do you have anything more?
Nope, I do not.
Shall we?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so I had just several questions. One, I guess, is to our town staff. I was just a little concerned about a couple of things. One, I guess I am a little concerned about the water testing being done after the flush was done, and I also looked at the lab test. We didn't check for PFOA and PFOS. Now I get it that the levels in our quote unquote in our water are less than the Mass DEP requires. But my question, I guess, is with this quote unquote being a dead end and this being done after a flush, are the results valid as was mentioned by the presenter? And I guess my second question is, are there?
So Syed, let's take
okay.
one question at a time, just so we're just.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, just because so.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'll chime in. This is Chris Payantha, Director of Public Works. Regarding the timing of the sampling, I want to be clear that the only driver for that was the request from the HOA to do so. That request was made as we were in the middle of doing the flushing, the soft flush. So that's just what it is. I can't, there was no intention to do anything other than respond to what the community asked for. I'll jump to the PFAS question. The town tested its system for PFAS. PFAS is based on, the presence of PFAS in your water is based on the source of supply of that water. It doesn't occur in the system without being injected into the system from the source of supply. So the town water, the same water that is fed to Westboro Village is the water that's fed across the street to the community and around the rest of the town. And so the results that come out of that Fisher Street water plant would be consistent across the entire town specifically regarding PFAS.
So Chris, would, for instance, if you had a dead end situation, right, and you weren't flushing, what I'm trying to understand is, would the levels of the contaminants be, first, let me actually backtrack. First, I'm very grateful. I'm sure the residents are also, that you immediately responded and got the lab test done. I think that is the exact right thing. But I'm just trying to, understand that if there's a dead end situation, would the levels be higher? I mean, if in my world, if there's a blockage, levels of substances rise. I'm trying to understand, does that happen in the water world?
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I understand the question, Josh. I think you're on. If you have a opinion, please chime in. But I don't know. I can't answer that from a technical standpoint.
Okay.
I guess I would say, though, that we should be consistent in how we do operations across the town. And this is a private community that has responsibility per their deed to maintain their system, as do many other communities across the town. And while we want to be as supportive as possible, if the community has something as specific as PFAS that they're interested in, we're happy to work with you, but I believe that, any resident or community can certainly test their water as they deem appropriate and for whatever they want to test it for. I will say, though, practically speaking, there's a pretty hefty cost to testing for PFAS. And so if we're going to do it for a community, then we need to be prepared to do it for others that ask for that same level of service. And I won't say we can't do it. I will say that is a precedent we just need to consider before we decide to do it.
Okay, and the other question I get, and this is, so I have a couple of more, Shelby. So this is to the other question I would have as a follow-up is, because now the system, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, the system has had a soft flush. So I guess we can't test for the substances that were present before. Would that be correct? Before the flush? I guess those samples are not, if the resident, I don't know if the residents have those samples, but after such a long time, would those, I guess, be contaminated samples because they've been there for such a long time? I'm just trying to get a sense of, is there a mechanism for us to check the levels before, if the resident...
Can I ask you a question? What would be the point of testing after the... Before.
Getting a sample from before, I don't know if the residents, for instance, had I don't know if a resident, for instance, had a sample from like 2 months ago.
No, I understand the question. I mean, I'm just trying to understand the point of the question. I mean, the soft flush has been done, and then the test results came back. So in my simple way, you're at sort of a baseline now.
Right, but my question is, what was before the baseline? I mean, before that, so this you've already done the intervention. If there's data that shows what were the levels before the intervention, that is, I would think, would be something if we could find out. I just don't know, A, do we have the data? And B, if we did get, for instance, a sample from the community, would the results be valid? Because, for instance, it's been sitting around for 2 months. I'm just trying to get a sense. I'm not a water engineer.
I think that we know that we haven't tested before this. Is that correct? And it wouldn't have been the town's kind of process to test for it before it.
Well, I do want to clarify. So the town has a mandated sampling program from the Department of Environmental Protection that requires us to sample the water on various frequencies for all kinds of contaminants. And the frequencies for that is dictated by the sampling plan. So it's not a town plan, it's a DEP plan that is dictated to us. And we have 30 sites that are approved by the DEP that are around the town to address, various aspects of a water system, including in some cases dead ends.
Okay, all right.
And so that's what controls how we test it. So we do test the water routinely.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear about that. It's just
thank you, Chris.
Not necessarily
that's very helpful, Chris. So that there is sampling, ongoing sampling in different parts. Thank you. That helps. And then I guess my other question is with regards to the comment about the water line, the access road valve shut off. And I recognize there's been a change in leadership and all this other stuff, but one of the things that we want to do is improve communication. So I'm just wondering, A, are we going to be addressing this? And then B, there must be other communities that may have similar problems, issues. How do we ensure moving forward that if something like this happens, that we communicate that to communities?
I think I heard, I guess, 2 points. One is in terms of the communication. I hear what was said from the HOA regarding, the history of the problem there and their communication with the Department of Public Works. I can't speak to 7 years worth of history, but I can speak to what's happened over the last month, that this has been specifically raised to us by more than one person, and we all have heard the details associated with it. It was clearly an issue, and I think we've reacted and done what we could to support. In terms of there was another piece that I'm sorry, I forget. What was the
No.
second?
So what I'm saying is, are we going to be, I guess, working with the community to open up this access valve or something so that the water?
So the valve. So when we met with the group here, the HOA and the property manager, that we discussed that valve specifically, and there is a valve there. It's at the entrance to the water treatment plant, and the reason it's closed, and it's been closed for a long period of time. I can't speak to specifically how long, but years. The water comes out of the treatment plant and goes up that access road. And again, Josh can highlight the details of this, but when water comes out of the plant, it has a certain amount of chlorination, and it has to have a certain amount of time in the pipe before it enters somebody's residence. And so by opening that valve that would allow that water to immediately enter Westboro Village, we lose what's called the contact time for the water for the chlorine to sit in the water, essentially. And so that would potentially kind of put us on the other end of the spectrum, the water would be over chlorinated as it enters your community. And we don't obviously want that to happen. So that's why that valve is closed.
So is there a way to is there a way to mitigate it? Can we, in a sense, do a bypass or something so that the loop, so that we don't have a dead end? Is there some?
So what we've discussed with the HOA, the members present tonight, was the short term is the system requires maintenance, and that maintenance is probably routine flushing, just like the town does just like we do across the town for the public hydrants. We flush them on an annual basis, and that is something that we recommend Westboro Village do on some sort of routine basis, just like many other private apartment and condo communities do across the town. A longer term solution could be some addition of piping in the community that allows for a loop to occur that would circulate the water, in a better fashion than it does right now. But that's a long-term fix. It requires some extensive planning and design, and obviously cost, and how that's all done would be, there's still a lot that would have to be figured out for that. So the immediate fix, and when I say immediate, I'm talking probably for at least the next year, but probably longer. There's going to have to be some sort of routine maintenance of the system. And we recommend flushing.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is someone from the town would be taking the lead on it, ownership of it, and to lead that effort, coming up with the long-term solution?
I think we'd be happy to discuss that, but I don't necessarily believe it's a town-only responsibility. It's again, a private community, and I think there's more discussion that needs to happen there, is my recommendation.
Okay, we'll look for guidance on it from Christy in that case, because we need a path, because the community is built according to the approved design. DPW had an employee paid by toll supervising all the work, and all the departments signed up on it, saying it is safe. Now there is something that needs to be corrected.
Well, I'm not saying, and I don't want to get into kind of draw this out, but the system is built to the standards that are required. It just needs to be maintained. And are there ways to make it more efficient? I'm sure there are, just like there are ways to make other places around the town more efficient, but there's a cost to that. And so when decisions are made, in this case, whenever this thing was designed, a decision was made to build it the way it was. There's nothing wrong with the way it's built. It's just there's a second order of effect, which means it needs to be maintained. And so that's what it is. I'm not saying it can't be fixed or handled a different way. I'm just saying that's what it is right now. And it's not a situation where something was done incorrectly. It's just the way it was done.
Maybe they didn't anticipate closing that valve at that time. But when closing the valve, when the decision was made, they could have thought of the implications, come up with, to work around whatever the consequences of it.
So I think that this is exactly the reason why the keeping the lines of communication, speaking of lines being open, between the HOA and the DPW, and therefore the town, is really important, because it seems to me like there's a maintenance issue that the HOA has not fulfilled on its end per its deed. And then there's this ongoing...
Just now.
Can I finish, please?
Yes.
Thanks. So now you're aware of that, and that needs to be done. But it is. I appreciate, like anything, like that there's turnover and there's change, but that is information that is is part of the deed. So I think that there's a willingness clearly here on the part of our DPW based on what we've heard here tonight and what we've seen in other documents to continue this collaborative relationship, if you will, to work toward longer term solutions. But I think the place to discuss them is not here before this board. I think that's a very operational issue. It's as I already said before, it's sort of above our pay grade and it's below the ground, so to speak. And those are discussions that I think our DPW director and our town manager are willing to continue to have. And that's where that work should continue. It can come back to this board when it's appropriate, if it's appropriate, but I'm not sure that there's any further action. If the board has questions, certainly any more questions, we can entertain those here. But otherwise, I would, encourage the HOA to continue those discussions. And I think you've seen a good faith commitment, a strong good faith commitment from our town to address the issue, both, with soft flushing, hard flushing, whatever all the flushing terms are.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
And we'll keep everyone in the loop. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you very much to all the members of the HOA for coming on tonight. Thanks to the board for listening. And Chris, thank you for your time tonight and answering some of the questions that the board had. So I think we're good with this portion of our agenda. Okay. All right. Chris, are you good? I just want to make sure you're good? Okay, he's not saying anything, so I think he's good. All right. You're good. Okay, good. All right. Okay, and Christy, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, super. Let's see here. Let me just get myself organized here.
It's via WRTA.
Yes, that's why I'm getting organized, because I need to speak. Okay, so a little bit of background. As the board knows, the via WRTA is a collaborative effort a pilot effort between Westboro and the WRTA. This was put in place earlier in the year. In 2020, since we're now in 2021. And sorry, I'm just getting my notes ready here. And my involvement as a member of the board delved further into VIA when I was assigned to the COVID task force. So as part of that task force and addressing issues of the pandemic, one of the issues that was talked about at length at a variety of different meetings was on transportation, housing stability, people being able to work, getting to and from work, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not sure we ever have a meeting when we're not talking about transportation and mobility. So we know that there's a need for last mile and micro transit needs. So. As those issues were identified through the task force, I had conversations with VIA and WRTA, and the conversations might have been anything from, have you considered ways in which to market to to businesses to make sure that they're aware of the service. It was conversations such as, via parking its vans in places that weren't highly visible, right? So if you're not visible, how are folks going to know? And so giving them some suggestions. And then I know at one point there was a maintenance garage place that said, geez, we could use a service that would, bring our folks to and from, because we don't provide transportation. So that was another introduction. So all of these kind of conversations had taken place. And one of the things that I learned while I was on the task force is that VIA is a great service, but there are many residents, often our primary audience for VIA, that don't have access to credit cards, or they don't have credit cards, and VIA requires credit cards to use the service. So as part of my work on the task force, I had a conversation with VIA, and so that sort of brings us full speed here today. To ask if they have any solutions, because I thought this can't be new. It's not just Westboro that has this issue. And so what they share with me is that they do have what's called a bulk discount, bulk purchase ride credit voucher program. So I shared this information. This information is in your packet, so you've had a chance to see this. And before it went any further, because I felt like I was sort of bumping up against my work individually, I brought this to Christy to say, how would we as a town implement this? So basically what happens is the town would purchase some amount of vouchers, pick a number, $250. They'd be divided up into small denominations, keeping in mind that VIA rides cost about $2 each, or $1 each way if you're going to a transit station. And individuals that want to use the voucher cards could get them at whatever location. It could be through Youth and Family Services if they hosted it. It could be through the Treasurer Collector's Office. I don't know. That's an operational question for our town manager and the departments to kind of work through. But I really feel like establishing a program like this or creating this mechanism would be really beneficial to a significant number of our residents who need transportation. So that's sort of the background. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but obviously would like the board's support, for us to move forward. And Christy, certainly if you have anything to add, let me know. Yep, Alan?
Okay, so first of all, Shelby, thank you for all the work you've done with the VIA WRTA program. I know you and I have had many conversations over the past months about it and ways to get the word out and expand the service. I see it as, we're technically a pilot right now, and the success of the pilot, I think, is critical for the long-term mobility solutions in our town, offering a point-to-point service that's affordable, as opposed to fixed route or not having any public transportation at all. So I encourage people to try it. I'm definitely supportive of the issue. I like, in looking over the materials from VIA, I noticed that, and I don't know if this is the specific program they gave as an example or it's standard for everyone, that in the town buying rides in bulk and then either giving those out in small, effectively debit cards or Charlie cards, whatever you want to call it, that one, the town can get a discount on those rides. And furthermore, the person with the individual ride card that uses it at that point gets a further discount, so that it makes it more affordable. And so I'd be interested to get a sense of how this, how this would work logistically. I could see potentially having multiple distribution points, Youth and Family Services, potentially the library, someplace in town hall, that would make this available to members of the community. And it's a good way to go forward. I have some questions about initial funding and how much would we buy, and and commit up front, and would that come out of the COVID-19 relief fund at this point, or would we need a different source of funding for that, given that it's not in the current budget?
The COVID relief fund is not a town fund.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So I think there's some logistics to work out, but I would encourage us figuring those logistics out and seeing if we can get this part of the program to fly.
Thanks, Alan. Other comments or questions, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I think the idea is great. I think the usage of it for residents that have that issue. This is all about trying to help out our residents and get them a service that can get them where they need to go. Like Al, I guess the question's really, and it's probably more towards, Christy and Kim in the town, is really the logistics, the same kind of questions as, how much do you do, but probably more importantly, where do we pay it from? We don't have a budget item. We probably, it's $250. I'm sure we might have something in a selectman's budget or something. I'm sure we could figure something out there, but yeah, I think trying it out and and then again, it's getting the word out and getting, folks to come to those places to access it.
Yeah, and I exactly. I think what I'm looking for here is the board's support to move forward in the discussion so that we understand all those, what are the logistics, because WRTA, really is a critical part of this, because they're the mechanism through which the town, at least as I understand it, would actually pay for the cards. Via creates the cards and, creates the unique barcode and whatever the technology is, and will help with marketing. But WRTA, because of the pilots through them, they need to be a key partner. So I think this is a win-win for them. It certainly is for VIA to increase ridership. And I think it is for the town as well. And it can start small. If it were to grow and there were to be a need, maybe then, and again, the logistics I don't know about, but maybe there is a, sort of a gift account or a channel by which people could come and purchase them. Maybe they go right to the WRTA. I don't know. Christy and Kim and, can kind of, work through those details. But if we start small and see how it works, then we could see what it would grow to.
I agree. And I think in the next step in the conversation with the WRTA is, given that we're a pilot, if they decide that this is a great way for, suburban local transit, we won't be the only other community looking at making sure that people who don't have credit and debit cards are able to use the service. And so being able to pilot the process by which the prepaid ride cards could be sold or made available would benefit the pilot from an informational standpoint for future operations as well. So great idea.
Christy, just as a quick comment to Alan, and I didn't say this before, but some folks may be wondering, why not just go to like a grocery store and get a prepaid credit card? The challenge with those, and I actually had some conversations with banks directly to see if there was any option locally, is that for every amount you spend, there's usually a percentage associated with that just goes toward service fees for using those cards. So rather than a ride costing, $2, maybe all of a sudden the $2 ride, and I'm making it up, costs $2.50 or $3.50, and that's obviously contrary to the affordability of this program. So I think this to me, is kind of is a home run, Christy.
Yeah, so, it's clear that the board wants us to prioritize this. And so we can certainly look for ways to implement it, and we'll, let you know, what the best way to do that is. It looks like it's a $500 minimum value. So I just want to, obviously that's still something that,
I think there's flexibility there, but yes, yeah.
So I guess the reason that we work with VIA through the WRTA is that there's a grant also involved. So, and Shelby and I talked about this earlier, is making sure that everything that we're doing is within the scope of that work. But certainly being a pilot, I would expect that they would be interested. So, we can certainly take this and figure out how it will work.
So, Christy, do you want an actual motion to proceed, or would that be helpful? Do you need a vote?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's fine. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the board's support of this. This is good. It's good for Westboro. So, excellent. All right. Discussion votes, Selectmen Representative Master Plan Steering Committee. So as I mentioned earlier in issues and correspondence, the next public forum is coming up very quickly here and on February 18th. And as the board knows, our our representation on the Master Plan Steering Committee was Lee Emery. And now that she's no longer a member of the board, we need to make a new appointment. And wondering if anyone has interest in doing that.
I saw Alan's name in the package, so are you interested, Alan?
I'm willing to take on the role. I know that Hazel Nurse, who is on the Master Plan Advisory Committee and is heading up the Housing Subcommittee, had sent a request that, given my work with getting the Affordable Housing Trust and just my current knowledge with respect to housing, that I might be valuable. That subcommittee needs additional help. I'm certainly, if the board deems that the best way to go, I'm certainly, willing to do it. I'm fortunate that as the Westboro Affordable Housing Trust has gotten up and running, Ed Bain is serving as chair and Hank Rauch as vice chair. And they've been very aggressive in taking things off of my plate and transitioning it into a standard functioning board. And so that, there's still a big time commitment there, but it's less than I would have anticipated. So I think that this is something that would be manageable. And obviously with annual town election coming in March and new members on the board, there's always a reassessment of committee assignments. But given the second public hearing, I'd be happy to carry us through, town election until we decide if and when to shuffle the decks a bit.
So I would move to appoint Alan Edinburgh to serve as the Selectmen's representative to the Master Plan Steering Committee as the motion, and just say thank you, Alan, for stepping forward, or having someone push you forward.
I will second that. Any discussion? Okay, roll call votes. Selectman Johnson?
Johnson, yes.
Selectman Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, yes.
Selectman Hashmi?
Yes.
There was a yes I heard. Okay, I just want to make sure everyone else heard it. And Selectman Marshall, yes, 4004 being present. Alan, thank you very much for stepping forward. Appreciate that. Okay. Moving right along here. Chicken and poultry bylaw. Christy, do you want to set us up here?
Sure. So the board discussed the chicken and poultry bylaw at your last meeting. We had sent out to several residents who had expressed an interest in us developing that bylaw, and we did get a lot of feedback. In your meeting, you also met with the animal control officer, who responded to, I think, a lot of the questions, who has really good knowledge of the keeping of chicken and poultry. So we have sort of continued to refine the bylaw, though we have not necessarily incorporated all of the suggestions, because I think the board, or I know that the board has committed to a public hearing, so that we can really hear from people of sort of all different opinions related to the bylaw. So I know we had thrown out a couple of dates, with town meeting anticipated being March 13th. Now that it's pushed out, you have a little more time, but I think we're going to want to sort of keep moving on this, so that it can be really ready for the May town meeting date. So I know we talked about the third week in February, so next week, that is school vacation week, but it's also the master plan meeting is the Tuesday. So I don't know if at this point we want to look to a late February or an early March meeting. Like the last week in February or early March.
Yeah, I think next week's premature. I just don't think we get time to advertise it and all that stuff.
So, I mean, March 4th might be a good date. That's a Thursday. That's when we've held these types of meetings, I think, on Thursdays. So we would be able to advertise it, and then we would just do it virtually. And, similarly to how we did with the budget hearing, where we advise people to contact our office to be provided with the login information for the public hearing.
Yep. Ian?
Question, I know we've had this discussion before. So is it truly a public hearing or is it a public meeting?
So it's public hearing infers that you.
Public hearings required. I thought public hearings required you to advertise and that type of.
So public hearings under the zoning laws require you to advertise. I mean, public hearings that are required under different laws give you different requirements in terms of posting notice. You don't have a requirement to hold this meeting. So it's public hearing, I guess, implies that the public will participate. We've called it a public meeting before. It really is just, you could call it just a Board of Selectmen meeting, and then you could just say that the public would be invited to participate, as opposed to a typical Board of Selectmen meeting where the public is just able to observe you doing your business. So.
Okay, I'm fine with anything. I just want to make sure that we didn't get ourselves caught up in any regulatory stuff that was more complicated. So I'm fine calling it public hearing, whatever. Thanks.
March 4th looks good to me. I would just, Ian, to your point, I would definitely would want us to advertise it in the sense of, I know we've got a pretty active Facebook page now for the town, and it would be on our website. Maybe we can even get the community advocate to speak to that meeting as well.
March 4th works fine for me.
Okay, March 4th works fine for me, and I'm comfortable doing it as a public hearing. I think if that this is going to be a general town bylaw that comes before town meeting at some point, that having had a public hearing is a good thing. Is from a good approach from a process standpoint.
So we've been
Even though
doing
it's
that.
not required, right?
Right, and we have been doing that. You did that with the animal control bylaw. We did it with the sidewalk snow removal bylaw, which, following the public meeting, decided not to move forward with it. So I think we have sort of committed to that when we have a significant general bylaw change.
Yep. Okay. Syed, are you available on the 4th?
Well, it depends on whether I'm elected or not. So.
Well, same here, but we're operating under the current board.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the voters, but yes.
Okay. All right. Well, you and I can always attend as private citizens.
Yes.
All right. So March 4th.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Great. And Kristen, do we need to set a time for that? Is that like 6 o'clock, 6:30?
6. I mean, whatever time you want. Yeah, 6 o'clock. Does that work for people?
Is that Ian? No.
And I'm just thinking about the public. I mean, I think pushing it slightly later. We've gotten comments before about people working, even though a lot of people work from home, some aren't. So I think I would push it slightly later just to make sure that we can.
6:30?
6:30 is fine, yeah.
Okay. All right. Seeing lots of approval? Yes. Alan, you go with that? Yep. Syed, good?
Yes.
Okay, great. March 4th, 6:30. Excellent. Okay. All right. We have approval of meeting minutes for January 5th. This is our retreat meeting.
Move the acceptance of the minutes from January 5th, 2021.
Edinburgh seconds.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Selectman Johnson?
Johnson, yes.
Selectman Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, yes.
Selectman Hashmi?
Yes.
And Selectman Marshall, yes. 400 for being present. Thank you very much, as always, Sela. And, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was, no.
I was just going to move on to the next thing and just ask that we pass over it.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Yep, passing over. Okay. Okay, then we're at issues and correspondence of the selectmen. And we'll just follow the roll call vote here. Selectman Johnson.
Yeah, I think we're all been getting a ton of emails. So there's a ton of correspondence out there. I know we're all kind of included on this stuff as it relates to concerns about happenings at the school and a question to, I think, us and the finance committee about holding off on school budget. I think with the delay of the town meeting, I think there's time for this to be worked out. I leave it in the hands. I think it's really still a school committee and resident possibility discussion, not a board of selectmen discussion, but just to acknowledge the fact that for folks, thank you for reaching out. We've received your messages. We'll watch this, but I think it is truly one for them to continue to work with the school committee and school department to address their issues. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Selectman Edberg.
Okay. Very quickly, at our February Economic Development Committee meeting last week, we were fortunate enough to have representatives from the Hudson Town Planner in their office, as well as the Hudson's Business Improvement District, the leadership team from that organization, which really gave a great perspective on the scope of public-private cooperation that was involved in some of the revitalization work that's happened in downtown Hudson that's been visible over the last 3 years, even though the work's been going on for several years before that as well. So if anyone's interested in that, it's inspirational, it's educational. It raises a lot of issues that we might not think about. It's like, oh, let's just make it more vibrant downtown. It's, easier said than done. There are a lot of moving pieces, like with most things. So that recording is available on Westboro TV, and for folks interested in economic development and the vibrancy of our downtown and gateway business districts, it would be some time well spent. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Christy, did you want to add something? Oh, okay. All right. Just want to make sure. I thought I heard a breath of like, ah. Okay. Selectman Hashmi.
So I wanted to follow up on something. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to follow up on something that I had mentioned earlier about, I believe I had raised the issue of Opportunity Insight. This is a Harvard affiliated group that's looking at, recovery from COVID. Christy talked to them, and then I subsequently, after playing phone tag, was able to talk to them. And, while they don't have, generally prescriptive solutions, I think their data set is at least, as we head into town meeting and we think about the impact of COVID on our families, especially the most vulnerable, I think this is at least a discussion that the board, quote unquote board, the school board, the advisory finance committee, I think that residents would benefit from having. They're more than happy to, come before they're more than willing to come before the board and share their research, especially on how, the pandemic has affected people differently, and some of their thoughts. So I raise this to the board that if I don't know if this needs to be a motion or if you're interested in hearing them, they're more than happy to come. I'm more than happy to contact them.
So this is the what is it? Something opportunities?
The Opportunity Insight group from Harvard.
So I spent some time out there. Christy, I think you had some conversations as well. I don't want to speak for you, but I did spend some time out on the website. I thought it was fascinating. So thank you for pointing us to it. I felt like as I was very interested in it, but I wonder if, I'm sort of following along a little bit with what Alan just said about having the Hudson Group present to the Economic Development Committee. I know this is not just about economic development, but I'm wondering if a conversation like that is better kind of in a committee and to sort of see like what sort of thoughts might germinate from there and then bring it to the board. I guess I'm not sure. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not sure what we would do with it without, kind of better understanding. Maybe it's a retreat topic for the board, actually, as I'm thinking about this, Christy.
No, I would just say, I mean, they definitely were interesting, and talking to them, was really interesting, and what they're doing is something that, I would encourage anyone to look at their materials or their website and understand. I mean, what they're doing is they're looking at, data from all different sources, different from sort of the government data sources, to understand the impacts of the pandemic. But, they were clear that, and it sounds like they were also with Syed, is that they don't have sort of zip code level data. Their data is more statewide or regional. They do have some county level data. So I think it's really interesting. I wonder if a presentation is better suited for, the library to put something on. I don't know.
Well, the one thing I would just say, again, you guys can mull this over. The one thing I would say about them is that their data on the recovery is essentially based as real time as you can get it from credit card companies. And I mean, they're anonymizing it, but they're looking at the spending of how people are spending and what they're spending on, and how, for instance, one of the things is like people that are earning, and I don't want to take too much time on this, but less than 27,000, the pandemic has been devastating for them. And the impact has, and if you're, above like 100,000, you've continued on as it were. So anyways, you can mull this over. The other thing, I guess, is just a follow-up of something that one of the resident had reached out to us about. I guess there was some issue with snow plowing, issues with the Forbes building. I just wanted to check and follow up. Do we have a plan to prevent this moving forward? Do we need signage? I felt bad. One of the comments that this resident had made was, "I want the town to be a good neighbor," and certainly I want the town to be a good neighbor as well. So I just want to make sure that we have a plan to be a good neighbor.
So I've had several, or multiple exchanges with that resident, and, we certainly, every year, related to snowplow operations, sometimes we get concerns about possible damage, and, we encourage people to reach out directly to, the Board of Selectmen office, and in terms of dealing with that and filing a claim. I guess I would just say that, you have the information in the emails as in terms of what we've done. We've talked to the plow driver. We've put up stakes. I don't think, I wasn't expecting to have this conversation at the Selectmen's meeting. I mean, honestly, we have had conversations, and we're moving forward, and the town always tries to be a good neighbor and always tries to do things in the best interest of the residents. So I don't really know what else to say about that.
Okay, and then the last thing is, this is something following up on what Alan was mentioning. I mentioned, several months ago, about potentially, using town contracts to support, businesses, especially minority businesses. Again, falling on data from Opportunity Insight. Those are the businesses that have been most affected by COVID. So I'm just wondering, can we get some follow-up on what, for instance, what the EDC is doing, what they're considering, or maybe just send us an email. Just let us know how the EDC or the committee itself, or how we're looking as a town to supporting, these businesses which have been disproportionately impacted by the COVID pandemic.
So how the town contracts for services wouldn't be the purview of the EDC. The EDC is looking at economic development town-wide, and in many ways we're actually involved in a process that's ongoing as far as goals and priorities. And I think we'll be coming to conclusion with that hopefully at our next meeting. The local rapid recovery grant is a great resource that'll focus on the area of our town where our small businesses, particularly our retail shops and our restaurants, are located. And so there's a range of work happening on the EDC, but that would be, economic development, contracting, policies, and procedures is not the purview of the EDC.
That's it for me, Shelby. Thank you.
Okay, so just as a follow-up to the opportunities thought, I didn't say this before, but as the new board sets its goals, whenever that happens, I think we've had this conversation a couple times now. It might be something to weave into work that the board does as it looks at economic recovery and just kind of coming out of the pandemic. So I would just keep that out there as sort of a placeholder, because I agree with you that, again, the data was really, really very interesting and could be informative to, work that is done in the community. So, okay, on my end, I want to, Ian, you disappoint me because you're usually right on this one, so I'll take it from you. I want to thank DPW for all of their work. As I've been sitting here tonight, the plows have been going by, and they've been doing a lot of work out there. So thank you for keeping our roads cleared and safe, and not just for residents and businesses, but also for our public safety vehicles. They had passed me earlier today, and at an appropriate rate of speed, but you have a real appreciation for the importance of keeping those roads clear when they are going to an emergency. So thank you to DPW for all of their work. On that note, I'll remind folks to not shovel or snow blow their stuff into the street. So it sort of goes on your lawn, not into the street. So just be a good neighbor to the town as well, please. Just to give the board a heads up, I want to thank Alan for his help and Christy for completing the annual report section that the Board of Selectmen submits for the annual town report. So that was done on behalf of the board. So just want to let you know that. And then I'll just wrap up with, as a follow-on, Ian, to your comments. I do want to also recognize that the board has been copied on several emails from individuals in the community who are advocating for full in-time person instruction in school now, while maintaining a remote option. And I would, I'm a parent. I'm also obviously an elected official. I share the concerns for the well-being and education of our kids, and I also share the concerns for the well-being and safety of our community and everyone connected to it. I think it's important that we respect the process that is underway and what is clearly in the jurisdiction of the school committee. I fully respect the parents' advocacy for their children and their subsequent education, and commend residents for working with the schools committee to most recently present at a school committee meeting just last Wednesday. So I would ask folks to trust the process, trust the people that are educating our kids, trust the system that brought you here to Westboro. Just like we as the Board of Selectmen trust our town officials through our town manager and the departments that she leads. They're responsible for delivering kind of the services and the operations, and we oversee that. And that's the role of the school committee. Trust the process. I believe in my my heart and my logic, if you will, that everyone is rowing in the right direction for the right reasons. And I'm also really comfortable that the town departments that support that effort, so the Board of Health, Public Safety, Emergency Management, Youth and Family Services, are also doing what they need to be doing to support the schools as, you know, any sort of ramp up to, you know, begin to address transitioning back into more full-time, you know, model, including bringing the vaccine to the community. So I think it's important, you know, continue to advocate for what you need to advocate for. I fully support that. You know, keep the dialogue positive and moving forward, because I think that's what everyone wants. So that's all I'd add. So with that, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
Okay, I move pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, that we enter executive session, the purpose of which to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate, specifically the property at 103 to 107 South Street, also known as 0 Denny Street, property at 10 and 12 Mill Road, and a property tagged as 0 Ruggles Street.
I'll second that. Selectman Johnson.
Second, roll call vote. Selectman Johnson?
Johnson, yes.
Selectman Hashmi?
Yes.
Selectman Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, yes.
And Selectman Marshall, yes. As chair, I declare that remaining in open session would be detrimental to the negotiating position of the town, and we will not reconvene in open session. Thank you so much to Westboro TV for covering us once again, and everyone be safe out there and have a great night. Thank you.